It is 00 o'clock, and you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best of Bond with Wubs and Tylord. I'm your host, Tylord, along with Wubs here. We're really excited to bring you the review, in-depth discussion of one of our favorite movies, The Spy Who Loved Me. This is the 12th Bond movie. How you doing, Wubs?
Fantastic. This was one of the best in the series, in my humble opinion. No spoilers, but
Yeah. No, and we've been hyped about this. I know we've been putting this off. I know we just released a couple videos, but it's been a long time since we've recorded a review. But like I'm saying, I was so hyped for this one. This one's always been one of my favorites. Probably like the first or second movie I ever saw. What about you? What's your history with this movie, and what did you think about it prior to our most recent viewing?
it was definitely one that I saw fairly young from the library. We would have checked out the VHS tape at some point, and it was just a mix of Connery and Roger Moore movies predominantly back then that you just got when they were available at the library. That was kind of, in a way, the first streaming service, right? Because you never knew what was going to be there. You just grabbed what looked interesting at the time.
With me, I think I would just keep rechecking it out every time I took it back. I'd watch that thing over and over and over when I was a kid. And this is 1977, which was the same year one of our other favorite movies, Star Wars, came out.
Yes.
But I don't know, hot take, I think I like this even more than Star Wars. Yeah, 1977, we get back Lewis Gilbert directing, who had previously done You Only Live Twice. And you're in for some visuals with him. Like, I think up to this point, maybe that movie was the most visually beautiful of all of them. I guess maybe OHMSS was up there, but I think this is up there with that. It's just the cinematography, and this is so beautiful, done by Claude Renoir, who I guess I heard in the commentary he was the grandson of a famous painter. So very artistic guy, very artistic movie, very beautiful. Like, most frames of this movie could be like a painting. Yeah, great stuff here. Great visually beautiful movie. Lewis.
Well, and that's been in part because of the sets, right?
Yes, that's another thing. Yeah.
The locales in this are. I think this movie is peak Bond for locales. Personally, I don't think there is a better Bond film for the locations in this film.
Yeah, so much picturesque and like photogenic areas. Everything's so photogenic about this. You got that Italian Sardinia area. Very beautiful. I know a lot of it's shot in the Bahamas. There's a lot of beautiful underwaters. There's fish, like aquarium fish. There's these beautiful Ken Adams sets that are so intricate. Probably the best out of the series in here for Ken Adams sets. So photogenic, like all the pyramids. The light and sound show, part of the movie takes place through that light show at the pyramids, and it's so beautiful. I just love how that, not only how it looks, but how that scene is edited. And you got the pillars and the columns and all the temples in Egypt.
You got the snow sequence in Garden in Austria at the beginning. I mean, that's what's so cool about this movie. I feel like, in a way, it's a combination of so many of the films before it. In terms of the locales, you mentioned the fish that Ken Adam was able to do with those beautiful sets for Atlantis. And that goes all the way back to Dr. No, if you think about it. Ken Adam doing the Dr. No sets, but this is obviously done on such a more grand spectacle level than that was. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's 13.5 million, which is the highest budget so far, I would assume, right?
I believe so.
I think the last one was only around 8, Man with the Golden Gun. So this is a lot more, and they really went all in on this because as far as what I understand, Man with the Golden Gun didn't go over well critically or financially compared to the others.
I believe both Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun were not well received.
Oh, wow.
At least as far as the box office went, I want to say, because I read an article last week about The Spy Who Loved Me, and they said that this was the movie that saved Roger Moore's as Bond. Pretty much, this was the movie that made him really able to do the additional pictures. And I never knew that. Watching it just as a fan, I always thought, wow, Live and Let Die is an awesome movie. Like, how would anyone? So I was really surprised reading that. But apparently, that's kind of how it was. At least the politics behind the scenes. This was the movie that made it for him.
Yeah, and I think this is peak Roger Moore. I love him in those previous two movies, of course, but I think just physically, he looks the fittest. He looks the handsomest. His acting is the best in this. He does a lot of variety of acting, more than any other movie he's in. Very versatile. I think
and he's quite physical, right? I mean, he gets in multiple fist fights in this film. Which is definitely, there's some of his films he really doesn't get, but so physical.
Yeah. And this one, I think he's probably already 46 or 47 in this, but still looking has a lot of life in him. Looks pretty good for his age. Very tall. Looks really good in everything he wears. Okay, enough gushing about Roger. This also has some beautiful women too, and just like I was saying, the scenery and the cinematography and the art direction, everything's so beautiful. The women in this, we don't have very many Bond girls, but the one we do have is picturesque. She's like a painting in every frame of this movie. And then of course Naomi, same with her. She's not in the movie very much, but just they picked the most gorgeous henchwoman for this movie. But Barbara Bach, oh my gosh, I guess watching this as a kid when I'm really young, I'm not really thinking about how pretty they are. But as you get older and older and watch this, she is just gorgeous, and I think her screen presence is very well, her emotional, her eyes and her facial expressions, her reactions to things. She plays off this Russian agent very well, and there's wonderful chemistry between her and Bond. This is probably this is probably the most romantic movie of the bunch after OHMSS.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that in our top 5 Bond songs video, where this was one that we thought was probably the most romantic movie after OHMSS.
Yes.
I totally agree. I think the other thing about Barbara Bach is, as far as the actresses who played Bond girls go, I think she's top tier as far as just how well she plays the character.
Yeah.
In terms of her acting ability, I think she's one of the absolute best in the series.
Yes. Oh,
not just a beautiful woman, but a very talented actor.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going all over the place. I'm so hyped up with this introduction here, but but yeah, just such a well-paced movie. All the romantic moments, and they're kind of off to a rocky start, and they're kind of a competition between them, the British agent and the Russian agent. They fall in, and it gets rocky. It gets later on in the movie. So there's some ups and downs in this relationship, and as I say, the pacing of this movie is really, really good. I think even kids with what's it called, attention deficit disorder would even like this movie, newer generation kids, because it almost is one of these new Marvel movies. The pacing is so fast.
Right.
There's not really a dull moment in this. Even the downtime, there's something really interesting going on. Yeah, but getting back to the girls though, there's so many beautiful sets and locations in this. And there's so many beautiful women just scattered about. They're almost just set decorations. Everywhere you go, and this is a beautiful women. Like Max Kalba has beautiful women around him. Sheikh Hussein has beautiful women all around him. All the steward or all the receptionists and everything in this movie. Man, just very, very gratuitous.
It's okay, Tylord. It's the 70s. You can say stewardess.
Yeah, stewardess. Oh man, and we get to see Roger in his naval uniform, which I think that's the first time since You Only Live Twice. I always like it when we see Bond in his naval uniform.
Right.
And then we get a lot of cameos or appearances of other Bond actors. I noticed there's a lot of them in this one. We get
Yes.
George Baker, who played Sir Hilary Bray, plays a captain in this. He plays a British captain. And we see, for the first time, Freddie Gray, the Minister of Defense. And we even see Robert Brown in this as Admiral Hargreaves, who goes on to play M later on in the John Glenn movies.
Right.
And I always wondered if he was the same character who got upgraded, or he's just supposed to be the same guy as Bernard Lee. Yeah, and then
Yeah, that's interesting. I never
yeah,
really thought about it,
yeah,
but you're right. I wonder
yeah,
what. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. And then of course this is the first appearance of General Gogol, and he's always one of my favorite characters in the
Right.
series. He stays through all of the '80s with John Glenn movies. So
Played by Walter Gotell.
yeah, Walter
Very good
Gotell, yeah,
actor.
who came back from playing one of the Spectre agents and From Russia with Love.
Yep.
Just so many, and we get to see Shane Reamer, who always has a tiny part. He has a pretty big part in this. Shane Rimmer is the American commander in this, Commander Carter.
Yeah, and he was also in the. Well, he was in You Only Live Twice, right?
Yeah,
As one of the NASA guys.
yeah,
Is that right?
and he was one of Willard White's men in Diamonds.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we get a lot of reoccurring Bond. Oh, even Sandor, the henchman. We saw him. He was one of the henchmen in Doctor No.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wow.
the big one that was beating up on Sean. Um, yeah, just yeah, not too many major characters in this, but we're sprinkled with many interesting little characters. But I guess we can get into it. I'm all over the place with this intro. But this movie starts off. I think we can talk about John Barry's not back for this one. I don't know. I heard something like he was having tax problems in the UK. So he didn't
Mm-hmm.
make. Anytime John Barry's gone, I'm very sad. But on
Right.
the other hand, every time they've had a replacement for him during this era, it's been a banger. Like they got George Martin for the
Mm-hmm.
Live and Let Die, and that was a banger of a soundtrack. And then I think some of these replacements they like hit even harder than John Barry. But and then we get Marvin Hamlet in this doing the soundtrack, and I think it's really really good. I don't know if I like it as much as John Barry, but he does. You can hear him channel John Barry in a lot of scenes, and even I noticed at one point later on we'll talk about he kind of channels George Martin. I hear a very Live and Let Die style of music later on. Um, but anyway,
And very time appropriate, I'd
yeah,
say. Like this movie has just enough disco
yeah,
that you know it's the late 70s,
yeah,
but it's not so much disco that it turns you off and you don't want to watch it.
yeah. Yes, that '77 Bond theme they use quite a bit when he's skiing. It's such a cool tune. And
Right?
when he's in the submarine Lotus, and I think they used it several times during the movie, during the car chase, the Lotus car chase.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good, and yeah, quite a few tracks in this I really like. Unfortunately, I never cared for the. I always had the CD soundtrack of this movie, and it's missing quite a bit. I wish there would be a complete release of all of the music in this.
Right.
Um, but it's missing quite a bit of the
Well,
soundtrack.
I've got the vinyl
Okay.
for it, and I think it has most of it anyway. I don't
Okay.
know if it has all of it, but
Yeah.
I've always been pretty happy with it when
Yeah.
I've listened to it.
Yeah, I like that tanker track and the Mojave Club of music, and then the Pyramid music is really good. Um,
Right.
but I was hoping they'd have. He almost has like a Monty Norman throwback, like the gum barrel in this. We'll start with the gum barrel. It goes back to like the guitar ding 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 ding. Usually,
Yep.
like the John Barry ones, after Diamonds Are Forever would go to the John Barry ones were like orchestrated like with the strings and the brass, but this one has it almost goes back to the original Monty Norman. It's not the exact same track, but it must be Marvin Hamlet doing his own thing, and it sounds really cool. The gun barrel opening. I think it's the only time in a Roger movie we hear the like the twangy low guitar tune.
I wonder if part of that was they wanted to make him more like Sean because of the failures of the other two films.
I was thinking so, or just like from the audio aspect. I know they were talking about they wanted him to be less. They let him do his own thing in this. They were trying to make him too much like Sean in the last ones, and I didn't really see that. But I heard the producer and the director talking about that. But it does kind of more go back to that Sean Connery sound with the gun barrel. And
well, they definitely did that in The Man with the Golden Gun, right? When they had him hit Maud Adams in the hotel room, like that was definitely, they were trying to make him Sean Connery, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that's why they decided to do it with the music instead. I personally, I think this works so much better letting Roger do his own thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. But we start off with that wonderful gun barrel sequence, and it goes straight into the I guess all the subs and the tankers in this are all models. So we go to the UK naval ship. Everyone's chilling in there playing chess when something shows up, a big tanker shows up, and you don't really know what's happening yet, but these submarines are being abducted somehow. So we get the British submarine is abducted. It just disappears. All the guys are frantic inside of this, and that's a Ken Adams set too. That the interior of the submarine.
Yeah.
I guess it's way bigger than a real submarine would be on the inside, but it looks really cool on film.
Yeah, it does look. It looks really big. Even my mom commented, or my dad commented when we were watching it, and they I remember they said like, oh, those that's a big space. Look how look how open that is, or whatever. And I said, it's not that big. All these guys are 3 feet tall. It's a submarine. Like, big.
Yeah. But at this point, we don't really know what the threat is. We just see the commander go look through the telescope, and something sinister is approaching them, and then he just looks away from the telescope and says, "Oh my God!"
Right.
And then it goes straight to. I think it goes straight to. Doesn't it go straight to George Baker, who plays a naval captain in this? And I guess that's a Ken Adams set too. Just for that little phone call, they have this big elaborate Ken Adams set. It goes to George Baker, who plays he's the guy who played Sir Hilary Bray is back, and gets the call that one of our nuclear submarines has been abducted. So the submarine with nuclear weapons on it has been abducted, and then it cuts to General Gogol. We see him for the first time in his big, spacious, cold, dreary, ominous communist office, and he gets a call that one of the Russian submarines with nuclear weapons has been abducted as well. And he's going to say he's going to put his best agent on the mission. And then it cuts to a couple in bed, and a very Bond-looking guy gets off the top of Barbara Bach. And you think maybe this guy is going to be the agent, Barbara Bach's lover. But he's saying he has to go off to a mission on Austria. And then and he has a hairy chest like Sean Connery. I thought I'd share that. And he kind of looks like George Lazenby. I think that guy.
Yeah, he does.
He kind of would have been a good Bond, that actor. But but I couldn't even tell they have Russian accents. It's so faint in this. But then her little music box on the bed goes off, and it's playing the theme from Doctor Zhivago. There's a lot of themes from other movies in this. But she answers her music box is a radio message from the KGB, Agent Triple X, Agent Triple X, acknowledge and verify. And then so you see that Triple X is actually their best agent. This is received and understood. So then it cuts to back to MI6, and then of course MI6 gets the message that the subs have been abducted, and you just see M. And one of my favorite lines in the movie, M's in his office, and he says, "Oh, I'll get my best man on it right away." And then he goes over to Moneypenny's office. "Moneypenny, where's 007?" Oh, he's on a mission, sir, in Austria. "Well, tell him to pull out immediately." And then what happens?
He's in the cabin in Austria with what I guess he doesn't realize is a Russian agent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Enjoying a nice weekend by the fire.
Yeah. They're like on, they're like on a rug, or like a bear rug or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You get an O. James in the intro, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep. And there aren't quite very many major Bond girls in this, but he does get with at least 3 or 4 in this. So that's the magic number I like for my Bond movies.
I feel like that's kind of Roger's minimum. He won't do a film unless, he can post up numbers like that, right? So I'm sure that was in the contract.
Yeah. So he gets on his little label maker watch. A message pops up that it reports to MI6 headquarters. So then he pulls out and gets off the girl, and she says, "But what happened? Where are you going?" And he says, "Sorry, darling, something came up." And he puts on his ski gear. And
wouldn't it be funny if he said something else came up?
Yeah, something else came up. Yeah. Yeah, but then we get to a wonderful ski sequence, probably just as good, probably not as long and intricate as the OHMSS, but very well lit during the daytime, which I like.
Yeah, we get very funkalicious very right away, right, with the music. Yeah, right.
Oh, it just starts off hits hard with that music. You get that, all the cool stunts. Yeah.
That funky Bond theme, right from the beginning, the ski chase. Oh, and Roger Moore is wearing probably the most uncool ski attire that's ever been put into film. This like giant yellow jumpsuit thing, like right? With the red backpack that's massive. Yeah. Like this is like the most unswab. Sean Connery would have never been caught dead within 50 miles of this outfit. Like he just would have not done it. But Roger, once he got that, okay, you get 3 or 4 women in this movie. Okay, sign on the dotted line. He was like, yeah, I'll wear that, no problem. Right? Like, if it's for England. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So he's in this chase. The Russians are all, the guy we just saw with Triple X. He's got his goons on a hill. And Roger's just skiing along to this funky Bond theme, enjoying the nice day in Austria and the Alps. And these Russian agents come out of nowhere with machine guns, and they're trying to kill him in this downhill skiing thing, which you would think it would be pretty easy, right? If you've got like a woman on the inside, plus you got all these other guys. Like, how hard is it to kill one guy in a mountain, right? Like it by himself, but somehow the Russians managed to screw this up, right? Like Bond gets ahead of them. He's got, turns out he's got a hidden weapon in his ski pole, which is I guess a rifle technically. And he just flips around and shoots the guy when he gets he's right behind him. And that's like it's like a rocket, that thing that goes off and it hits him in the chest. It's a really cool piece of Q-Tech. Yeah. And but that was, of course, Barbara Bach's lover, Triple X's lover. Yeah. So, that may have consequences later in the film. But then Bond does, it's amazing. He's wearing the worst ski attire that's ever been put down to film in the history of cinema. And yet he does probably the coolest somersault backflip move off the edge of this cliff, because he was facing behind himself, skiing backwards, shoots this guy, does the backflip off of this thing, flips forward, like manages to do like a 180 in mid flip and then lands going straight down the mountain. I'm pretty sure Roger Moore didn't do that stunt. But anyway, they made it look really good with editing. So he keeps going, right, and gets to the edge of the mountain. The music builds up, and then you think like he's just gonna die or like have to stop at the edge, but no, he keeps going over the edge of this massive mountain. This is like stupid how big this thing is. You can see from where they filmed it in the helicopter. The music cuts and he's just in free fall for like probably like 20 seconds, right? You see him take off the skis from far away. The skis fly away, his poles fly away, and then he pulls out Union Jack coming out of his parachute, and the Bond theme plays right for an instant, and then it goes into the titles credits. Amazing. Roger Moore is maybe the only man on the planet who could pull off an intro wearing that ski attire and make it that badass. I don't think Connery could have done it. I don't think it would have happened. What do you think?
I don't know. I never thought about that, and so you mentioned that it is pretty dorky. Like, I saw this so young, I thought, oh, that cool banana-looking suit. It's so bright, like something a spy would wear, the red hat and the red scarf and all that.
Like that, you could see him from Jupiter in that thing. Okay, there's nothing remotely covert about it.
Oh man. But we got to talk about that stunt. Like, that was.
Oh my God.
The ski stuntman that did that. His name was Rick Sylvester, and I guess they had found him from a beer commercial or something. He did it at that, and then they got him. Oh, you got to do it for this Bond movie. But he said, "Oh, I didn't really do it in the commercial. It was just like trick photography or whatever." But he did it anyway. Oh man. Can you imagine?
Well, you know, when Albert Broccoli calls, you got to answer, right? That's how it works. He doesn't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
He's like Kobe Bryant, you know. It's not going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just can't imagine. That's probably it's got to be top 3 in pre-opening title sequences ever. Just so epic.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think anything would ever top the crocodiles or the spiraling AMC, but man, this skiing off of a cliff, like a really wide shot too, from like a helicopter, off of a cliff, free falling for many seconds, and then pulling the cord, the big Union Jack pops out. All the skis and the poles look like they're gonna hit the parachute.
Yep. It looks so dangerous to film. Like it was so scary. I mean, every time I watch it, it's like your heart stops.
Yeah.
Once that music cuts and he goes over the edge, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
What you're seeing here, and you know, we've seen countless parachute stunts in film over the years, but I there's something about this one that it just hits hard every time I see it. It's just like, wow, that was impressive.
Yeah.
How it was filmed, how it was executed. It was a big deal too for them to get that shot because the weather was not cooperating. As I remember, like it was. I think there was trouble trying to get it filmed because of the weather.
Yeah.
So they had a tight window. They had to get it done in, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I watched those extras, but yeah, it was a big deal to do that stunt. Now, was the guy who did the stunt off the cliff, did he do the backflip as well on the skis?
I know there were many stuntmen. It probably was him. I didn't research that. I know there were many stunt, but I'm sure he did probably a lot of that.
Because I would think you would have to be not only a good stuntman, but you'd have to be a really good skier to pull off that backflip.
Backflip. That's like, that's almost just as impressive, that backflip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, very, very cool opening, obviously. And, you know, again, I feel like Roger Moore is like really the only Bond who could have pulled it off with that outfit.
Yeah, and when he pulls it out, when he pulls out that Union Jack, it's almost like almost like kind of Bond has changed from like this anti-hero spy, kind of a dark character, and he's almost like the English superhero now. You
Right,
kind of notice
right.
that this movie from here on out, he kind of seems more like a hero instead of like an anti-hero. Like
That's true.
he still has some of the like he still drinks and womanizer. You can't get rid of that, but kind of feels more like this is more like a kind of like a superhero type character now, like with the bright outfit and the,
Well, if you think about it
yeah,
too, Roger is really the only Bond. Well, I guess Connery was really that way too. Like
yeah,
Connery and Roger never went off company, right?
yeah,
They never like went and kind of did their own
yeah,
thing. They never went rogue,
yeah,
really. And so, but Connery just had that more hard edge
yeah,
to him in general. So, yeah, Roger's more the company man, I think,
yeah,
of all of them,
yeah.
for better or worse. But you're right, he's more of a superhero in that way. He's less of an anti-hero.
Yeah, and yeah, later on too, like he's so versatile in this. Like he can do the serious and he can do the funny, and he can even
Hmm.
do like the Rambo later on. He's almost like Rambo. I never saw like any Bond movie up until maybe
Yeah.
Tomorrow Never Dies, where Bond's like Rambo.
The end
Yeah,
shootout in this is
yeah,
pretty wild. Like
yeah,
the battle on the carrier or
yeah,
the tanker. It's
yeah,
really good.
yeah. But this right here, the parachute opens up into the beautiful Carly Simon song, and Marvin Hamlet composed this wonderful song. I'm so glad he did because this is a timeless song. Like you don't even have to like Bond movies, and you could like this song.
Oh yeah.
We get the beautiful Maurice Binder opening with the hands, the silhouette of the hands grabbing the parachute, and we get all kinds of beautiful naked silhouettes of women doing gymnastics on gun barrels. All kinds of wonderful. We get Roger Moore in here a lot. I don't think we ever saw Bond in the titles, but we see Bond with a bunch of women in
Hmm.
this. What do you think about these opening title credit sequence?
This is one I think when we did the best of series, I said was one of my
Yeah,
favorites for the title sequences,
yeah,
and I think that the silhouettes are done so well. The girl doing the gymnastics on the gun barrel, I
yeah,
think, was so clever,
yeah,
and it just works so well
yeah,
for this intro, and it is such a, I don't know, it's just such a romantic movie.
yeah,
I feel like thinking of it versus the OHMSS intro, which I also love,
yeah,
absolutely love, because it does all of the retro stuff,
yeah,
having the scenes from the films that came before it, the hourglass with the music, I love that
uh-huh,
too. The explosions in the background, but this is just such a nice romantic intro compared to that.
yeah,
The OHMSS intro, if you just watch the intro, you'd have no idea how romantic that movie is,
yeah,
right? It just looks like a brutal, new Bond action movie
yeah,
from its intro. But for this one, it's like it sets the tone of the movie perfectly
yeah,
for what it is, being a romantic film,
yeah,
really first and foremost, I'd say, over anything else.
yeah,
And I love that it's between the English agent and the Russian agent, the West and Eastern,
yeah,
the differences of the time and everything. I think it's so cool that they would do these stories that would show how they could work together
mhm,
and actually get along if they just tried.
yeah. Yeah, stuff like that always warms my heart. Like it's cool to see like people come together against unite against an evil or something in movies. I
Hmm.
always that's like stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I love it, and I love the so that it's yeah. Again, the theme song too. Coming back to that, I think that this isn't just one of my favorite Bond songs from when we did the songs.
yeah,
I would say this is like top 10 pop songs of the
yeah,
70s. I think of like
yeah,
easily. If I was going to do a top 10 list of songs, I'm pretty sure this would be on it,
yeah,
of pop music from that period, that
yeah,
decade. So that's a pretty big deal to have as
yeah,
your opener track, right, for
yeah,
a film.
yeah, yeah. I think that was her like second biggest hit ever, Carly Simon.
Mm. What was the first?
What was it? You're So Vain. I'm not sure.
You're So Vain. Yeah, probably.
What
You
if,
can tell that it wasn't Bond fans making those lists.
yeah. You're so yeah.
This song is so much better than You're So Vain. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah. Oh man. Yeah, just love this intro, and I love how it ends with the girl doing gymnastics, and then it goes straight to General Gogol's office again,
Yep.
and he's kind of sad, and he brings in Major Amazova is her name. We keep calling her Barbara Bach, but she's coming in looking hot as ever, dressed in that Russian uniform, and
Mm-hmm.
very statuesque and serious. He brings her in and tells her about the missing submarines, and he's putting his top agent on the job, and then she's about to leave, and then General Gogol says, "There is one more thing I regret to tell you," and he breaks the news that her lover Sergei has been murdered in Austria. He was involved with a British intelligence operation, and he was murdered. And he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I knew you two were so close." And I'm just thinking this whole time, man, General Gogo's really nice guy. Like you think of
Yeah.
Russians being mean and heartless, but I can't
Right.
imagine him acting like that to Bond. Like, remember whenever one of Bond girls dies, he's all, "I'm gonna take you off of this if you can't be cold and calculated or whatever."
Right.
But
Right. He's always so
yeah,
cruel about it.
yeah.
Like for no reason
Yeah,
either. It's like
yeah.
just for the sake of being cruel.
Yeah. So he forgets to tell her that, and he's, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I knew you two were more than friends or whatever." And she says, "Keep me informed, General. I would much like to know who is responsible for his death." And then it cuts right to Roger Moore flying on a helicopter to the helipad on that carrier.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the scene where we get some of the plot unfold. We end up in down in the operations or the planning operation room or whatever it is, and we get a lot of the heavy hitters in there. We see the Minister of Defense is there, and he comes in with this the course of a submarine that he has, like someone has a tracking device to track these submarines. And we get Freddie Gray, the Minister of Defense, or no, I think Admiral Hargreaves had it, Robert Brown,
Right.
and then we also see, of course, George Baker is there. I think his name was like Benson. He's played Captain Benson, but we get all those heavy hitters, and then Q is in there too. So we get all these heavy hitters unfolding the plot that there's a submarine tracking device that someone has been using, and somehow it's their only lead is Cairo.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so then we get there's not really much other than like we get all those heavy hitters there at once. We get Q. He's kind of assuming that they can track his techno babble or something about they can track the submarines by their wake, kind of like you can track planes by the exhaust or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah,
It
but
would this is the problem, right? Because
yeah,
it threatens their entire nuclear defense
yeah,
system
yeah,
in the
yeah,
West.
yeah,
Because if their subs can be tracked,
yeah,
then they could all be attacked, and they'd have no idea when it
yes,
was going to happen.
yes. Yeah, so this is a major, epic, world-threatening event here, sort of like the other Lewis Gilbert movie, You Only Live Twice. And if you
Yep.
notice, all three of his movies are rather similar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna mention this is
yeah,
basically you only live twice in the ocean.
yes, yeah. You got the before it was the spacecraft swallowing the spacecraft, but in this one it's uh, spoilers, a big tanker swallowing submarines, nuclear
Submarines,
submarines.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're reusing that plot, which was made up for that movie, which was never really in a book. So, and the book of this is nothing like the movie. This is just more like its own unique story. And I guess the Christopher Wood, the screenwriter in this, did write a novelization. I really want to read it. because I read his Moonraker novelization, and it's so awesome. It's like the movie Moonraker, but written as if like In Flaming would write it. It's really
Oh,
good. Yeah,
that's great.
yeah. So he has one for The Spy Who Loved Me. I really want to read it, but I haven't. But so then we Bond his so Bond goes off to Cairo, or he goes off to Egypt, and we get to see Roger with the desert outfit on a camel. I don't think that's probably the only time we've ever seen Bond on a camel dressed like that, and I think Roger's the only one that could pull it off. Or no, maybe Connery could. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe more of a Lawrence of Arabia kind
Yeah,
of vibe for the
yeah,
60s.
yeah. So
But I just want to mention real quick too, before that scene, we actually see Bond with the Minister of Defense,
Oh yeah,
Freddie, right on the deck of the carrier,
yeah.
and Bond calls him Freddie
Yeah, I think that's
right
the only
there.
time.
So
Yeah, he calls him Freddie.
but this is how amazing Bond is, right? Like he
Yeah,
can just address the
the minister.
Minister of Defense of England by his
Yeah,
first name,
yeah,
and it's like they're buddies on a schoolyard, right?
yeah. I
Like
didn't. Yeah,
Freddie
yeah,
doesn't even blink about it, like it's not a big deal.
yeah. You're right. Yeah, I never thought
So
about that. Yeah,
like and in later, I only bring that up because in later movies we'll see Freddie, he'll be much more aggravated with
yeah,
different situations and impatient and stuff, but
yeah,
they establish right at the beginning here that this is the level of respect he has for Bond because
yeah,
he allows him to have such an informal relationship as far as how
yeah,
they address one another.
yeah.
And
That's a good
I think
point.
that's an
Yeah,
interesting kind of detail for the
yeah.
characters.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really remember him ever calling him Freddie again. He always just calls him Sir.
Right.
After this, and he's always a lot crankier after this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Which is kind of wild, right? You'd think
yeah,
he'd be pretty cranky right now with the threat
yeah,
that they're
yeah,
facing.
yeah, yeah. So then we meet the villain of this movie,
One of the richest men in the
one of the
world.
richest men in the world, and he knows how to use his wealth. He's built this deep sea underwater city with like this giant palace that can raise up above the water level and go below. And it has a helicopter landing pad on it, and he has an aquarium in there with all kinds of exotic fish. He's obsessed with oceanography, ocean life, and ocean animals, and a lot of subtle things about him I didn't really notice as a kid. Like he has a whole fish theme going on, but did you notice he has webbed hands?
Oh, wow. No, I didn't.
Dude,
Oh,
I'll
that's
tell you,
why he didn't like to shake
yeah, and
hands.
you would never notice it. It's so subtle.
Okay.
Maybe that's why like you can't really tell, so that's why they never really draw attention to it. But he has webbed hands,
Right.
and
That makes so much more sense
yeah,
now.
yeah. And at one point he's eating fish food. Remember, he's throwing fish food in, and then he's eating it. It's
Hmm.
almost like this man's a fish, and he's kind of a recluse. Like he doesn't like the outside world. He always just stays in his palace, and he kind of wants to destroy the world because it's decadent, and he wants to start a
Hmm.
new beautiful world beneath the sea.
Kind of
But
ironic that,
yeah,
what was the equivalent of a billionaire at the
yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
Was trying to destroy the world of decadence.
yeah.
Like
I know,
his
no kidding.
he
Yeah,
literally has this palace that can
yeah,
go below the water and then
yeah,
come up, helicopters, all
yeah.
this money. The food he eats is insane.
Yes, he's
Like
always eating.
how
Yeah,
opulent it is
yeah.
and like overdone. The table in the dining room,
Yeah,
it's like a football field. You know how long
yeah.
this table
So
is.
yeah, he
This
pretty
dude
much.
is like the definition
Yeah,
of opulence,
yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah, so he's really a hypocrite in that way.
yeah.
But man, this guy, I know people don't really give this guy a lot of credit, Kurt Jurgens, and I always thought this guy was like the like if you look up Bond villain in the dictionary, he's pretty much just like a fish version of Blofeld.
Oh,
Like
totally.
like
I think he's one of the best villains
yeah,
in the
he is.
series.
Yes, yeah,
Really,
yeah,
like he's like right, Blofeld, Goldfinger, and then
yeah.
it's Stromberg.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I think his mannerisms aren't quite like Drax, where Drax seems like a proper movie villain, or
Hmm.
like this guy kind of seems like a real man. Like he thinks he's doing the right thing. Like in his mind, he thinks he's doing something good, and he's so full of
Right.
himself. But the way he acts, it doesn't even seem like he's acting. It seems like he's like a real guy. That's why I always like this
Right.
guy. Yeah.
Well, he's so totally believable, right? With
Yeah.
even modern day, the billionaires we have, right? It's
Yeah.
all, oh, let's go to space, no matter
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the cost or the effect is, right?
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what it is. It's
Yeah.
just he wants to go do, do the ocean.
Yes.
And it's funny too. Like Elon should watch this movie, right? Because he'd
Yeah.
see Kurt makes the point right at the beginning, like, why explore space when we 7/10 of our
Yes.
own world remains unexplored?
Yeah.
They had NASA and all the astronauts, they have it all wrong. There's
Yeah.
still so much to discover right here, and
Yes.
I think that's still relevant today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, ironically enough, I think that's still a relevant point.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, I always like
I
that
think
line.
that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we get him and he's always eating. Well, I think every scene in this movie he's always eating something. But we see him at his big dining room. He has this long table. He always sits at the end of it, and there's windows on every side. He can see under the ocean when the facility's underwater. And when it
right.
raises up, you see all the water. It's a big, huge, intricate set from Ken Adam. And then there's like the miniature on the outside of it. It looks really big. It's probably a big miniature. It's probably on the outside, it's probably the size of a bus on the outside, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
supposed to be this big city-sized structure. But
right.
we see him in there eating, and we get to see he has a beautiful blonde secretary there working for him, and then we see my girl Caroline Monroe walk in, Naomi, the one of his henchwomen walk in with and she's looking hot as ever. She looks like a statue or a painting every time I see her.
Yeah, and let's
Uh,
just for the audience,
yeah.
she is a veteran of the Dracula films
Yes.
with Christopher Lee
Yeah.
as Dracula. So,
Yeah.
who was, of course, the villain in The Man with the Golden Gun, the movie just
Yes.
before this. Just a little movie trivia for you
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So we get to see the man with the golden gun bite Naomi in another movie.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for a
Oh
dollar,
heck yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stromberg though, basically you've got a fish Nazi who wants to destroy the world
Yeah.
as we know it, right?
Yeah.
As a villain.
Yeah.
So he's has very strong opinions about fish, doesn't like people, and has all the money and resources to just wipe out basically all of humanity.
Yeah. Exactly. And of course this guy's the one who has the submarine tracking system, and he has these two professors were the ones who developed it, and he has them in there. He's about to pay them, and I always thought these guys are hilarious. What is it, Professor Makowitz and Dr. Beckman.
Yeah.
They always just reminded me of like little Muppets or something.
Yeah, right. They could be Beaker and the other one.
Yeah, and he says, "Well, gentlemen, congratulations on your satellite tracking system. You will each be deposited $20 million, or is it 10 million apiece? In your
I think it's 10 million a piece.
in your
But
Swiss bank account."
how great would it be to recut this scene
Yeah.
with Beaker, like as the
Yeah, Beaker and the other guy. What's his name?
yeah, right. I forget, but the other scientist guy, and it'd just be like it'd be so hilarious. Stromberg says, I've deposited $10 million in your account," and Beaker goes just out of shock,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
always shocked at everything. It would be so funny.
So this guy, he's thanking them and he's going to pay them. But then as they're about to leave, he says, "Oh, I regret to inform you that an outside interest has access to this information and submarine tracking system." And then right when he says this, he sees a secretary and he says, "Oh, my dear, it would be nice if you left us at this moment." So then we get a little foreshadowing to the end of the movie. We see the poor little cute secretary walk out into the elevator, and then as she's leaving, it's playing some Bach music, and similar to what Sean was expecting in Diamonds Are Forever, but it didn't happen. The bottom of the elevator drops out, and she falls down this tube and goes into a shark tank in that huge Ken Adam elaborate set. So then you hear over the loudspeaker. I always thought this was like the most ominous scene ever. You hear the Bach music playing, and he's saying, "It was you who betrayed me. You had access to all the information, and now you will pay the penalty." And then the tiger shark comes and starts eating her. And I don't know what the heck they got. Was that like a dead real shark, or they can't put a real person in with a shark?
Yeah, I don't know how they did that. I always just assumed it was a real shark, and they, put some, I don't know, some kind of meat inside of a, a secretary uniform or something.
So you think that was a fake secretary? Okay.
I think it might have been, but I don't, at least for the bite scene, right? Because you kind of see the shark bite into her, right?
Yeah,
like her torso.
It might just be like a dummy. But I always thought that the girl was real, but I don't know. What about that shark?
Yeah, I think it was probably, I don't know, but I would think it was 2 sets of filming, right? You film the girl flailing about in the water, and then you cut it with scenes of the shark and like just some bloody meat thrown in with her gown or whatever, and then recut.
It's like nuzzling her with its nose. Like, I don't know if she must have been a dummy or something.
Yeah, but it wasn't that bloody of a scene either, right? Really compared to what you would expect.
You just see like all of the curtains go down, so you can't see it on the podium, yeah.
Which is kind of funny, because they did show blood in Thunderball, as I remember. Yeah. So this is actually a little less graphic.
Yeah. Yes.
I think they did that because the idea of the pretty secretary dying was so sad just by itself, right? Yeah. Like, nobody wants to watch a beautiful woman die.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's Electric King, then it was just kind of a relief.
We see another beautiful girl die later on in a horrific way, but
right.
But then we see the little Muppets there with the look on their faces. They're all terrified watching this girl get eaten by a shark.
Me.
Bekowitz and Beckman, and then they go, and then after
freaking out, right, all over his face. It's like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. If he'll kill her with a shark, what's he gonna do to us?
and then after that's all over with, he says to them, "Once again, gentlemen, my most profound thanks." And then they all just run away to the elevator. The one guy stops them before they get in there, and they look at the elevator.
They're so terrified to ride the elevator. After that, this is like anyone trying to take a shower after they saw Psycho. Yeah. Like, it's just, all right, pause a minute here. Is this a good idea?
But then you think, okay, wow, he actually paid them. He's not such a bad guy. And they're flying away in the helicopter, shaking each other's hand. And then you see Stromberg go to his control panel. I think it's down in his little lounge there where his aquarium and all that is. And he pushes a button, and then you see that helicopter blow up with the 2 professors in there. And he says, cancel transfer of $20 million. Inform next of kin there's been a tragic accident resulting in the deaths of Dr. Bekowitz and Professor Beckman. Their funeral was at sea.
Very efficient, right? For a villain. Like, he obviously had that on the schedule the day before and knew exactly what he was going to say when he pushed the button.
Yeah.
And the other thing about that scene is it always reminds me of near the end of the Man Who Knew Too Little. Have you ever seen that Bill Murray movie? With Bill Murray, with the British guy and the Russian guy, or like they think they got away with it. They got the money they got the little the little Russian doll with the bomb in it. Yeah. And he's like, obviously this isn't the bomb. This is the one he picked for himself to take home as a souvenir. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, but her stomach looks like it's all messed up or whatever. He's like, you idiot. You got to twist it. And he twists it, and that sets off the bomb, and the helicopter blows up. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you're right.
I always think of that scene when I see either of these movies. I think of the other one, because of the helicopter blowing up. Oh, but it'd be even funnier if Beaker was on that helicopter. I have to say, like,
you just picture Beaker and that other guy, just those little guys. They just seem like little Muppets. Those 2 characters.
They really do. I swear you could recut the whole thing with Beaker and the other guy, and it's gonna feel exactly the same.
Yeah. But Speaking of cartoony duos, after this we meet my favorite henchman of all time.
That's right.
We see Stromberg back in his, I think he's back in his dining room, and he calls for his henchman. And first we see Sandor walk in. He goes, Sandor, and then here comes big, little short, buff Sandor walks in. He can't even fit in his suit. He's so like big around the chest and big head and everything. And yes, sir. And then you see this guy that makes him look like a little tiny kid walk in. Jaws walks in. Jaws.
Mr. Larson from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Mr. Larson. Yeah. Walks in with his. He says, and he's telling them about the microfilm is he needs to come retrieve the microfilm with the plans on it. And anyone who comes in contact with it is to be eliminated. So he's gonna.
Jaws does that big toothy smile right as he says that, right? Because Jaws likes murder. It's kind of his thing.
You know what?
Yeah.
And before I was mentioning, I met Richard Kill and I got his autograph, and I wanted to ask him about the teeth, if they got it from Silver Streak.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, take anything from Internet Movie Database with a grain of salt, but I guess they did see that movie and he had metal teeth, and they gave him metal teeth in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was 76, just the year before this one came out.
Yeah.
So that is possible.
And this could be the only reference to the novel, I'm thinking. There were two henchmen and there were two baddies in the novel, and one was a tall guy with weird teeth. I don't know if they were metal, but something was wrong with his teeth, and his name was Horror. He was a tall guy, and then there was a short bald guy named Slugsy. And I'm thinking maybe that's like the film version. Slugsy and Horror are Jaws and Sandor.
Right. Yeah. Another fun thing about the Silver Streak, Clifton James was in it as well.
Yeah, playing like a bungling law enforcement.
Right, like he does so well in the Bond films.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really should review Silver Streak at some point because you know it also, for so many other things, it's a great movie. Yeah. But it's got easily the best use of blackface in the history of cinema.
It does. Oh,
right? Like it just
it's so funny.
with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. I still think that's one of the funniest sequences ever made. Richard trying to make him, black so they can get past the security.
So
like this is amazing how funny it was.
I love that movie.
That's the kind of comedy, right? They can't do anymore, but it was so good at the time.
That was so funny. I love that movie so much. It kind of reminds me of like a 70s version of North by Northwest.
Oh yeah. If it was a wacky, that's totally what it is. It's just a wacky North by Northwest.
Yeah.
With these, comic icons of Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor together. It's honestly, sometimes I'm amazed that for those buddy type movies, particularly those classic ones where it's like these guys were just so big. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to imagine how could their egos both fit on set, but they made all these great movies together. Somehow it worked. So thank we all benefited from that.
Yeah, we got to do that movie at one point.
Yeah.
Getting back, and then, so I guess that is sort of like the inspiration of why they had him wear metal teeth. According to a post on IMDb trivia, so take that with a grain of salt. But I wanted to really ask him about that because it just was too much of a coincidence. I always assumed that movie came out after this. Like, of course, if you're going to have Richard kill Jaws, you're going to have his teeth messed up. Like,
right.
But so off to Egypt, some beautiful scenery in this. He's traveling across the desert, and he goes to this oasis and it's super elaborate Ken Adams set with all the fixins in there.
It's a harem oasis in the desert.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Oh my gosh, this movie is so gratuitous. Like the clothes these women wear, they get like the most beautiful models for this movie.
It's still very much the 70s.
Yeah. He meets up with Sheikh Hussein there, who is his contact, and he knows about this microfilm with a tracking system on it. And Hussein's kind of like this aristocratic. He kind of has like an English accent, huh?
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
because he went to Cambridge
Yeah,
with
that's right.
Bond,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He went to Cambridge. Yeah.
Yeah, they were old school friends, but obviously Hussein came from all this money.
Yeah.
So he's, basically kind of a layabout in the
Yeah.
desert.
Yeah. Yeah, he keeps offering him a drink, vodka martini, dates, nuts, or whatever. He's all
Right.
information or whatever, and then he's like, "I better get on this. Bond's down to business." He's like, "Are you sure I can't influence you to spend the night?" And then he claps, and a really pretty girl comes up with a rose, and then he says, "Oh, that's okay. I'll be going." And then he turns and sees the girl. It's just when one is in Egypt, one should delve deep into its treasures.
Right.
So I guess that's girl number 2 right there for the
Hmm.
movie. But I love Roger in this, how he can pull off lines like that with a straight face.
Yeah. Yeah. You really get the impression that this is just an average Tuesday for him.
I know. Yeah,
So, because he just doesn't miss a beat with it.
yeah,
I also think it's really funny that
yeah,
Hussein tried everything else, right? He
yeah,
tried liquor,
yeah,
food,
yeah,
lodging. Roger
yeah,
didn't want any of that. So he
yeah.
was finally like, all right, I'll offer you one of these 20 women I have here just to, get you to
Yeah,
do the sleepover,
yeah,
so we can reminisce, right?
yeah, yeah,
But he went down the list of things
yeah,
first.
yeah. Uh, so he does get the information he wants from Hussein. He tells him he must come in contact with a man named Max Kalba, but in order to get to him, he has to talk to a man named Fizek. So he gets Fizek.
Fakesh.
Fakesh, yeah,
Fakesh.
sorry, Fakesh. How could I forget Fakesh? Yeah,
Right.
he's going to meet up with Fakesh at his apartment. But anyway, so then after we get the information from Sheikh Hussein, we go to Cairo, and Roger's looking for Fakesh, and he finds his apartment. After we go through, he's walking through Cairo, and it's really cool scenery and sets and camera angles. Like he's walking down the staircase, and you see like the temple or the tower in the background. It looks really cool. But he comes to Fakesh's apartment, and this part I always kind of was confused because Sandor is trailing him. You see Sandor's watching him the whole time, and he's looking to kill Bond. But he goes to
Mm-hmm.
Fakesh's house, and he's not there. But there's a pretty lady there, um, and she's all over Bond. But I always was wondering, is she really Fakesh's secretary or lover? And Sandor had got there, and he's threatened her to set
Mm-hmm.
up Bond, or is she an agent working with Sandor who has like a change of heart? I've never really understood the.
I always kind of thought she was Fakesh's
Yeah,
secretary
that's
or
yeah,
like you said or lover instead because she so quickly betrays Sandor,
yeah, yeah,
right? I think it was also a terrible plan, right? Let's
yeah,
have James Bond walk in here. I'm gonna hold a pistol through a window,
yeah,
very far away
yeah,
and see if I can hit him. Like this is not well thought out, obviously.
yeah,
As far as an assassination
yeah,
goes, which I guess is why he doesn't last too long
yeah,
afterwards. But the other thing is, I just wanted to say really quick about the scene. I think that this is the most Connery moment
yes,
in Roger
yes,
Moore's entire career as Bond,
yes,
right? He walks in and basically seduces this woman
yeah,
like so quick. He turns her to his side
yeah,
immediately. All he has
yes,
to do is like say a few things and kiss her,
yeah.
and that all of a sudden she's like willing to die with
I
him,
know.
willing to die for
Yeah,
him.
good point.
Like,
And this has some of my favorite lines in the movie too. Like he's like, "Where's Fakesh?" He says, "Is there anything you like? Anything at all?"
right,
And he says, "Where's Fakesh?" And she says, "Oh, you are very suspicious, Mr. Bond." And he says, "I find I live a lot longer that way." But the one line I like is, "Is there anything I could get you? Anything at all?"
right.
And he says, "Well, I had lunch, but I seem to have missed dessert." And then he starts making out with her.
Very Connery.
I love,
Very, very Connery.
but then kind of back to sort of like Goldfinger when he's making out with the girl. There's someone behind them, and Sandor's little stupid plan. He's up there gonna shoot Bond, But then she sees him, and then she says no, and then he swings her around. I guess he swings her, and she gets shot because either that or she faints and she falls down.
Yep.
And then you get this little chase, on foot chase. They're going around this apartment or this area, and Bond is chasing Sandor, and then Sandor sneaks up to him on a rooftop. Sandor sneaks up on him, and they start a little fist fight. I've always liked this little fight. I thought it was a cool little scrap.
Right.
Yeah,
it's excellent, right?
Yeah.
Like as far as like a quick fight goes with this is one where you just see Roger more in the fray than I think you do in a lot of his fights. You know, it just seems more I don't know, just not forced, I guess. Like it just seems like it's very natural by this point.
Yeah. And he does the typical Bond move. You see that little assisted drop kick a lot. You saw it in where he holds up onto a rail and that's like the double drop kick. Yeah.
Yep.
You see him from Russia with Love, and he does it again to Jaws later on, I think. But he does that little move, and then a lot of scrapping around. Like Sandor's throwing him around and doing like WWF moves to him.
Right.
And then, but then he starts getting some punches in, and he's backing up Sandor to the edge of the building, and then Sandor falls, about to fall off, but he grabs Roger's tie, and this is like one of the coolest Bond moments. And then Sandor slipping, he's just holding by the tie. Bond says, "Where's Fakesh?" And he won't say anything. "Where's Fakesh?" And then right when he says, "Pyramids," he slaps the tie away, and poor Sandor falls off the 2-story roof to his death.
One of the colder kills Roger Moore makes, right? It's like very casual. He was very ready to murder this man, I think, because he killed his Connery girl like right like that. I think that pissed Roger off.
Yeah, I know.
It's like
yeah. Dude, you're right. That scene could have just came out of something from the 60s with Connery.
Well, Roger just doesn't usually murder people like that, right? Like that casually. But I feel like he was just very angry. He killed the girl, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. So he gets the lead that Fakesh is at the pyramids, but what a helpful chap, he says.
Right.
But then we cut to like probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, the pyramid light show where Fakesh is, and you see he's already met up Triple X. He's already met up with her, so she's a little bit ahead of Bond at this point. She's met up with him. They're in the audience of this light show, and this is a cool. I don't know if they still do that. Probably not in Egypt in the Giza pyramids, but there's like this light and sound show where you hear like the narrator talk, and I guess that narrator is Charles Gray. Did you notice that?
Oh, is it? I no, I never did. That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he's sort of in 3 Bond movies now.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I'm gonna have to listen to that again now.
But they're at this show where there's like a narrator and there's music and lights, and so Bond goes here and he sees Fakesh there talking with Anya, and this whole show's going on. There's music playing. I really love this music, and I don't know. It must be Marvin Hamlich's music for the score, but I don't know if it's like source music, so it's like supposed to be part of the show, right?
Right.
But it fits in so perfectly with what's happening on film. It's so cool. I love how this scene's edited, and just like the look and everything of it. But Fakesh is there, and then he's scared because he sees someone else is there too, and it's Jaws. You see the shadow of Jaws, and when a light goes by him, it plays the scary music, and you see Jaws there, and Fakesh flips out and he runs away.
Right.
I love this scene. Do you have anything else to add about this scene? I really love it.
No, I love the way that it's filmed, right? It's really cool, and it's very, again, 70s with the sound effects they use for the transitions and the presentation, and it's creepy to see Jaws against the backdrop of the pyramids here. And I mean, this is how scary he was, right? Fakesh leaves a public space surrounded by people to run away to get murdered by Jaws, right? And That's how scared he was of Jaws. He could have probably just stayed exactly where he was and been fine.
Yeah.
But that's how intimidating Jaws was in this sequence, and it works perfectly when you watch it. It's like, wow, this guy's really scary.
Yeah. It almost feels like a horror movie. He's running around through all the tombs and the back of the pyramids and all that, and all the lights are going on. You hear the music.
Yep.
And he goes to that little tomb with a gate with a padlock, and he locks himself in there. Bad mistake. And he's just hiding in that tomb.
Right.
It's almost like a vampire or a horror movie. Then like Jaws and Bond's scoping out the whole thing. He's sneaking around watching. And then Jaws comes up to that chain with the padlock and just opens up his mouth and bites it and breaks the chain.
Right.
And then poor Fikesh is in there. He's backed up to a pillar. He can't do anything. And Jaws just walks up, knocks him out, and bites him on the neck and kills him. As Jaws is leaving, Bond draws the gun on him, and then the lights go off, and Jaws disappears very mysteriously.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we get a little scuffle. We see Major Amasova shows up, and she says, "Where is Fikesh?" He's with the pharaohs. She's like, "You killed him." "No, he was dead when I found him." And then, her two henchmen run up to fight him, and their names are Boris and Ivan. You can't get more Russian than that, huh?
Right.
but I like this little fight, though, and the music and sounds going on at the same time, so it's like a fight show. It's like really a spectacle, this fight. And he's fighting these two Russians at once. I noticed at one point that the stuntman, I'm sure it's a stuntman of Bond, does the WWF body slam. I don't know if you noticed. It's
right.
exactly like how they do it in WWF. But then he beats the crap out of these Russians right as the music climaxes and ends. And then he just straightens up his tie and goes, "Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night."
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty smooth.
Yeah. Oh, so many good scenes. Straight on to another one. He looks at Fikesh's notebook and he sees he was going to meet Max Kalba at the Mojave Club.
Mm-hmm.
So the next scene goes right to that, and we get a cool little club interior. That's a cool little spot. Another cool scene in this movie. And of course, we meet up with Major Masova again, and we have some cool dialogue between Major Masova and Bond. There's a lot of rivalry going on. Usually kind of different. Usually Bond's trying to bone the woman, but this one there's like a little bit of jealousy and rivalry going on between both of them. It's so beautiful, beautiful as ever. This wonderful dress she's wearing. Roger's all done up in like his dinner jacket and all dressed up in his suit. Yeah, so they meet up and they're gonna bid on this microfilm. Max Kalba's there. I thought just for a little small character, I always liked Max Kalba. Like he had a unique look and about him. The owner of the club. So he has the microfilm and he's going to have Major Masova and Bond bid on it. Do you have anything else? There's so much going on in this scene. I can't really cover it all. You have any thoughts on this scene?
No, just that it's funny that Kalba's about to make this massive sale, right? Which would probably involve hundreds of millions of dollars if it like played out.
Yeah.
But instead he says like, "Oh yeah, I'll take this random phone call instead of closing probably easily the biggest deal of his life."
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Like as a
like telephone call. It's urgent.
Film element or whatever, a device. Yeah, let me take this phone call. My mom's been sick. I better not miss this call or what.
Yeah.
It just makes it so easy for Jaws to murder him and take the film.
Yeah, another horror movie type moment where you see all the performers and the dancers, and it keeps cutting back to them, and you hear the music getting louder and louder as Max Kalba is in the phone booth, and here comes Jaws. You see him give him the microfilm, and then he goes in for the bite right when the music ends again. Like how they use like the source music or the ambient music in this to like work into the scene. It's really cool.
Right.
One other thing I wanted to mention, the little dialogue between Anya and Bond. We get a reference to OHMSS in there. This is the first
really?
This is the first time they've acknowledged it ever.
Oh, because she talks about his history. Yeah, they each know what the other drinks. Like they know a lot about each other because of the rivalry of their organizations. Yeah.
He says, James Bond 007, licensed to kill many lady friends, but married only once. Wife killed when, and then he cut her off. Like, I think you've made your point. He says,
Yeah.
Mr. Bond, you're sensitive. He's about certain things, yes. But that's like the first time. I would have been sad, like they kind of just erased that movie from continuity after Diamonds and all that. But it was nice to see that they referenced that again in this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool just to add continuity to the character.
Yeah. And then, but then we see poor Max Calva gets chomped on, and he's laying there dead. And then, very disrespectful, Bond grabs the out of order sign on the next phone booth over and puts it on his dead body. But then he sees the windows open, and he jumps out of there. And he sees Jaws is making his getaway. He's disguised as a phone electrician repairman in a van. This old van, and Bond jumps in the back of the van, and then Anya's right on the tail too, so she jumps in there, and then we get the little van scene, which is wonderfully. You like this scene?
Oh yeah, I love it because this is the first time that they really get together in a romantic sense, right?
Yeah.
Like this trek through the desert is so long, and they're talking about Jaws, talking shop pretty much like, oh yeah, he's a killer. Jaws, of course, has the microphone in the back, so he can hear everything they're saying, and he just starts grinning to himself as they talk about him.
Yeah.
But also, it sets it up so that they start to get intimate there. Anya falls asleep on his shoulder. And then is really upset when Jaws hits a bump and wakes her up and finds herself there.
I love that scene where he, and it kind of goes with the music too, and they're playing like a romantic instrumental version of the spy or of Nobody Does It Better during this drive across the desert, and like he puts his arm around her when she's asleep, and the bump wakes her up, and she looks, and then he takes his arm off really fast, and then he does that wonderful Roger thing where he like scratches the side of his mouth and it kind of looks awkward.
Right.
You see him a lot of times when something awkward happens. You see him do that. I think Pierce might do it too.
Yeah, he does something like that. I think a little twitch. Yeah.
Yeah. But then this wonderful movie, the great scenery, the locations in this. They go to those pillars. It's like a temple or whatever, but it's just like rows and rows in columns of pillars. They're like giant, like 50 feet tall pillars. This old Egyptian ruins.
Right.
And Jaws ends up going there, and he walks away, and they're sneaking up on him. You know what? I just watched that movie. It's really good. That Death on the Nile. Have you ever seen that? With
is that the that Hercule Poirot film? Yeah.
I just watched that and it came out maybe like the same time as this movie, but it had a lot of the same locations in this. And even one scene, one of the characters pushed a rock off of a high spot that almost hit someone. So or made me think of this. And also in that movie, the main girl is Louis Childs that played Dr. Goodhead.
Ah, okay.
And that made me think, and I guess from research on this, I guess Broccoli wanted to get her to play Major Masafa in this, but she didn't want to do it for some reason. She came back and did Goodhead in the next one, but that just made me think of that movie, Death on the Nile, this location, and that kind of tied it into to Lois Childs, who played Dr. Goodhead. And I didn't realize he wanted her to play this part.
Right. Oh, I didn't either. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. But
I'm kind of glad it didn't happen, honestly, because I think this is a lot better with Barbara Bach.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But this whole scene I love too. There's so many good scenes in this, kind of like OHMSS, like just one good one after the next.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also just the amazing locations again, right? We've gone from the Austrian Alps to the Egyptian pyramids, now to just random ruins in the desert in Egypt. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know, getting back to the music, I think this is where he's channeling John Barry when and this isn't on the soundtrack disc either.
Mm-hmm.
They're sneaking around in the columns looking for Jaws and the pillars, and
Right.
you hear it's like a throwback to From Russia with Love. It almost sounds like the same
It's
track.
the opening. It's the
Yeah.
opening sequence
Yes,
where
yes, with Grant.
Grant is
Yeah,
hunting Bond,
yes,
right?
it's almost
Yeah.
exactly like that. Only you can hear some of that Egyptian like in there, like a little bit of a hint
Mm-hmm.
of like the Egyptian sound, like the
Yeah, the instrumentation is
yeah,
very Egyptian.
yeah.
Yeah.
But and then right when it yeah, it's sort of like when Grant chokes the guy when that music cue. Other than that, like Jaws jumps down during this one, and there's a little fist fight. You see how huge Richard Kill is. I think Roger is like 6'1" at least. He looks like a little kid. But I think
Right.
I heard Richard Kill say in an interview he weighed 350 pounds in this. Can you imagine a
Wow.
human weighing that much?
I mean, being that tall and
Yeah,
like, I mean, he looks slim, right?
yeah, he's
That's
like
the
a
thing.
skinny
Like,
guy. Yeah,
it's crazy you could
yeah,
weigh that much and
yeah.
be that skinny.
I know, just so tall. Yeah,
Uh,
like the inches put on a lot of
wow.
weight.
Well, later
Yeah,
on when they have the train fight, you can
yeah,
see when he puts his hand on
yeah,
Bond's neck,
yeah,
his hand is as big as as Bond's face.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
his whole head is like the
yeah,
size of Richard Kield's hand.
yeah, yeah,
It's amazing.
yep.
This guy was amazing.
Yeah, but we had this cool little fight, and they're scrapping underneath this it's sort of like a half built structure, like some um, I can't really explain that. It's like some structure that's built up against the stone pyramid, like they're rebuilding something. So there's like catwalks and poles and platforms up there, and they're fighting underneath this, and you can tell it's rickety and it's about to fall apart. But as they're fighting, a Major Mustafa, out of her little purse, she pulls out a little gun, says, "Don't move." And then they both stop fighting. And then she says,
Yeah, right.
"The microfilm, give it to me." And then he takes it out of his pocket, Jaws, and throws it down on the ground. And then you get a sexy shot of Triple X kneeling over, looking up at him with a gun, trying to feel for the microfilm, but she's concentrating on pointing the gun at Jaws, so she can't see it. So she glances down for like 1 second. Jaws kicks the gun out of her hand,
Mm.
and she grabs the microfilm and runs away. And Bond's left there with Jaws, and Jaws has a big 2x4, and he's about to clobber Bond with it. But Bond positions himself by one of the structural support beams, and then when Jaws swings at him, moves out of the way, and the whole structure comes down on top of all the boulders, or all the bricks and 2x4s and 4x4s. All everything just smashes down on him, and then Roger gets up and bursts himself. Egyptian builders, which which I didn't get that when I was a kid. Like, why does he say that? Do Egyptians make bad things? And my mom said, "Oh, he's just being sarcastic because like Egyptians build the best structures that last the longest in history, and he's just making
Right.
a joke."
Yeah. This one rickety little
Yeah.
structure, yeah. But they made the pyramids that
Yeah.
lasted forever, thousands of years.
Yeah. And I guess the Egyptians were very sensitive about that while filming, so I guess take this with a grain of salt. It's from IMDb, but I guess he uh, he just mouthed that out. He didn't say it out loud, and then they dubbed it over again when they edited it because they didn't want anyone to hear him say that.
Right.
But then there's more. Oh, then we see Jaws is still alive. We found out this is like a supernatural, indestructible guy. He's like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or the Terminator before the Terminator. We see his
He's
hand.
evil Superman.
Yeah, evil Superman. Yeah, he's almost. I always kind of think of him as like Bizarro. Like he's like the Bizarro version of James Bond.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah. But you see his hand stick up out of the wreckage. And then there's more shenanigans. They go back to that old bus or that old van, and Triple X is trying to start it, but it won't start. And then she's left the microfilm up on the dashboard. Bond grabs it. "Sorry, you're just too late." And then he's being really, really demeaning and rude to her. This whole scene, it's hilarious. She's trying
Yeah.
to start the car, and she can't drive a stick shift. and Jaws comes back out and he's attacking them and he's tearing apart the van. He's ripping panels off of it, and Roger's just sitting there all calm, making fun of her how she can't drive and saying like, "Oh, you women drivers, and you want me to drive?" Or he's grinding the gears. Do you know any other tunes?
It'll play. Yeah, but it's let's talk about how ridiculous it is that theoretically the best Russian agent can't drive a stick shift.
Yeah.
That seems very unlikely.
Yeah, it is, but she ends up ramming him. It shows how strong he is. Like he's up on the back of the back bumper, and she rams him into a wall behind them, and she says, "Shaken but not stirred." But then when she's gonna ram him again, before he picks up the whole back of the van, and the tires are just spinning around in the back. But then finally he drops it, and then they run away, and he rips the back door off. Probably like the most like supernatural thing to happen in a Bond movie since like Baron Samedi.
Yeah, it probably is. Jaws is superhuman, right? And it's funny because I guess he's fortunate. Roger always chooses to fight him in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
Generally, like he'll either punch him in the mouth or shoot him in the mouth.
Yeah.
And like he always goes for those teeth for some reason rather than anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it works for the movie. It's very funny.
Yeah. Oh, then they're off on another drive, and there's some more weird music. They're playing like this funny clown music with the rickety old the van is destroyed, and there's panels and pieces dangling off of it, and it's bouncing around through the desert driving away, and they're playing that silly music
right
until it finally breaks down. But that's kind of a silly moment. But then right after that they go off on foot, and it plays the Lawrence of Arabia music, like just shamelessly plays the Lawrence of Arabia music when they're walking through the desert on foot.
you could do that back then, right? You could have these just on the nose movie references inside of another movie, and nobody thought twice. It was just funny,
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, and I noticed they did the same thing in Spaceballs. Remember when they walked across the desert? They played the Lawrence of Arabia music.
Right. They used the Jaws music at the beginning of 1941.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it was a fairly common practice in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. So they're walking through the desert. They're still in their like their dress outfits, and they make it to this river boat, and the man says they can take a ride on the boat. They says they're a little bit overdressed, but they can take a ride on the boat. This is a really beautiful romantic scene. And they're getting to know each other a little more. And this is where they get a little intimate. What do you think about this scene?
Yeah, it's nice, right? Because it's the sunset. It's the, Triple X finally softens towards Bond a bit, even if just to manipulate him, but, into dropping his guard. But she does that. You got this nice instrumental of Nobody Does It Better in the background playing. And yeah, it's a nice scene, but and it looks like they're gonna have a good time until she pulls out a cigarette and blows it in his face, all this dust, and steals the microfilm.
Yeah.
Right? Then she ghosts him. It was like the worst date ever.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah, he did examine the microfilm with his little pocket microfilm examiner before they.
Right.
I like the two little dialogue between them where she says it's cold, and he says, "Is there anything I can do to help warm you up?" He says, "You don't have to worry about me. I took a survival course in Siberia." He says, "Oh, what did they teach you? To have a positive mental attitude. Anything else? Food is also important. Yeah, but what else? Shared bodily warmth." And then, that's the part I like. And then they start going at it. I love that.
But it's so fun. It's funny to think about too, because every time I hear that, I always think, okay, so it was Triple X and like 80 really buff Russian dudes, right? Like out in Siberia, or husky Russian guys, very hairy. That's just what I picture at this survival course thing. Yeah, she thinks it was a survival course. It was really, a recording for something else.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
There were cameras. Yeah. She has no idea she's famous in the West.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this really how they do it in Siberia? Yes, but not how they do it. And then they go start kissing again.
Right?
But then,
Yeah, I think that was another lie.
yeah, no kidding. And then the other lie I like that Roger pulls it off with a straight face. He's like, "You're not trying to take advantage of me, are you?" He says, "Oh, the thought never crossed my mind."
Yeah. And then she hits him with a cigarette,
Yeah.
so she was the one taking advantage of
Yeah,
him.
yeah. So she gets the microfilm from him and runs away to her bosses, and Roger's abandoned on this boat. He wakes up at the dock, and he's walking through the village, and he's asking about the girl. Someone tells her that must have told him where she went, or either that, or he's just going back to his headquarters. I'm not sure if he knows this is his headquarters or it's a surprise to him, but he walks to those ancient like Anubis statues, or no, I forget who it is. It's some statues there, those giant statues, and it's like another
Yeah.
temple. And he goes in there, and of course, there's Moneypenny there. There's the MI6 headquarters set up, and she says, "Oh, how's the party?" And this is the only time we really get to see Moneypenny. He says, "Boring, Moneypenny." In fact, I dropped off. And then he walks into what he thinks is M's office, and this is a cool like inner like temple, like all the Egyptian artwork and everything everywhere. He walks into what he thinks is M's office, and who's in there? It's General Gogo's in there. They start playing the General Gogo theme. Um,
So nice of Moneypenny to warn him.
I know. And Triple X is in there too. And then like, what's going on? And then you see M walk in. Oh, hello, 007. And M's a lot nicer in this one after Man with the Golden Gun. Like he's even nice to Gogo. And he's always complimenting Bond, like "good going Bond" or "nice going James." Like this, totally like a different guy from the last movie. But we see they're all pulling together. This is that moment where, and I didn't realize stuff like this was happening in film. Like in the '80s, we were all getting cool with the Russians and the wall came down and all that. But they're like coming together to pull their resources to come together to find out about the stolen submarines. So now M and the head of KGB are like buddy buddies. Like, no, you go first, Miles. No, you go first. um, but we get them met up, and then there's still a lot of competition between Triple X and Bond, and she's saying, and Gogo is saying, Triple X has recovered the microfilm. She's like, with considerable ease, I might add. And then Bond's like, she gives it to M, and he says, "Don't bother, sir. There's nothing on there important. I already looked at it."
Yep, it's useless. That's why I let her have it.
Yeah. So there's still like the little rivalry going on. And he says maybe Q can make something of it, and then they go through Q Lab. You like this Q Lab in the pyramid?
Oh yeah. The Pyramid Q Lab's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a fun one to actually see in a video game.
Yeah. You see the seat with a spring that launches you up.
Yep.
Like the ejector seat. I guess it's like an ejector seat with a spring.
You got the hookah that is a machine gun.
Yes.
It's a machine gun. Yeah.
That's cool.
You got they're testing out the car oil projectiles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The thing that shoots oil out the back.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And then there's
The
like
blade comes up out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then the tea tray like magnet.
Oh yeah, the tea tray for the tea party. Yeah, that was good. That was a good one.
Yeah.
And it's really cool how that scene is like 30 seconds maybe.
Yeah.
But you see so much of the lab right there, and you get a total vibe for it. It's well shot the way they did it.
Yeah.
And it's such a unique place, right? That might be. Is there a more unique Q lab than that one?
I don't think so. Like, I like you don't really see Q's lab on the sunken ship or the lizard
right
or whatever.
In Man with the Golden Gun, yeah.
And then you see a Q lab. Yeah, usually it's just at the MI6 headquarters, and then there's one in Octopussy that's kind of similar in India.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess that might be the coolest one.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Oh no, there's the one at the in Moonraker. There's one at the mission. That's a pretty cool one too. They're kind of like the same, movie, but in different locations.
Right.
But yeah, so then we meet up with Q, and they're all just chilling out. All the KGB and the MI6 are chilling out, watching Q slideshow of the microfilm, and there's nothing important on it. But Bond notices on the corner of the microfilm there's a weird little symbol down there on the edge, and Q says, "Oh, that's probably just a show through from whatever the document was resting on when they took the photo." And then they zoomed in on it, and there's a great bunch of little back and forth between Triple X and Bond, like who's smarter, going on, like trying to find clues. It turns out that the little symbol is the Carl Stromberg laboratories symbol, so they know something's involving Carl Stromberg, so that they get their first significant clue.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads them to Bond says, "Oh, there's a Carl Stromberg has a laboratory in Sardinia or in Corsica, I believe." And then Triple X says, "Actually, it is Sardinia." And then General Gogol, "I can't wait to have these two resourceful and intelligent talents working together to get to the bottom of this." So then they're all happy that they get to work together. Anyway, but there's a cool train scene right now. And I guess they weren't even going to bother with this because they had already done one with Teehee. And there's always the overshadowing From Russia with Love train fight. But I'm glad they left this in because I can't get enough of train scenes in Bond movies. And we actually get a fight in here, which is cool. And we get a lot of romance, and they're starting to like each other. What do you think about this scene?
Yeah, it's good, right? It harkens back to From Russia with Love and Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
The train sequences, and it's a good fight too, right? Anya plays all hard to get at first, and then but they're both sort of preparing anyway because Bond's moving the champagne closer to the bed or whatever. He thinks she's gonna come through. She starts to change or whatever, and smile to herself. So it's like something's about to happen, but then she opens her closet and who's there? Oh God, it's Mr. Larson from Happy Gilmore. Oh, with a nail in his head. No, it's just Jaws, but still, it's Richard Kiel, and he once again we get the Michael Myers moment of horror. That the train squeals and he grabs her and is about to kill her before Bond. They're making all this noise, and finally Bond hears something and opens the compartment door to their adjoining rooms. Sees him about to kill her, hits him with what, like a bottle of champagne? Is it the champagne he hits him with over the head? Yeah. Instantly pisses off Jaws, who, the charges for him or whatever. And they have another great train fight. The Bond series has such a good history of train fights. Really, like if you think about it, like all of the fights that happen on trains are really good. They're really well choreographed. And so Jaws is just crazy in this. He's going after Bond hardcore. Roger's fighting him off pretty good until Jaws gets him by the neck, and then he's trying to punch him and keep him away, keep his teeth away, but he's about to be overpowered until Jaws is like right next to his neck, and then Roger sees this lamp, breaks it, and Jaws is like understands immediately what's about to happen. His face changes. He's freaking out. He's trying to hold Roger back. It's so funny because he instantly goes from trying to get closer to Roger to forcing him away, but it's not enough, and he gets zapped in the teeth by the electricity in the lamp, and that really incapacitates him. Roger, kicks him in the gut, right, and then in the back, out the window of the train, he goes flying down this hill, this massive hill that would have killed anybody else. But of course, he just, as he always does, gets up and dusts himself off.
Straightens tie,
straightens the tie. Again, Bond Bizarro, right?
Yeah.
Wearing the blue leisure suit, which we should have mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Jaws is wearing this blue leisure suit. It's so 70s through this whole movie. The only thing that would have been more 70s is if he had really big bell bottoms, you know? They would have had to have been massive to fit on Richard Kiel, though.
Yeah.
To actually see him.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, great fight, great train fight. Of course, Bond is injured in the fight. Anya tries to take care of him or whatever, but of course Roger wants to take care of her first. So yeah. Good scene.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, just like one good scene after the next. And then,
so then they go to visit Stromberg, right? They get the invitation.
Yeah, they first end up on the by the ferry boat where Q brings the Lotus Esprit.
Yep. My favorite car in the series.
Heck yeah. Like, instead of getting a big lecture on it, he doesn't want any more of that after Goldfinger, so he just drives off.
I love Q here because he shuts the door, right? Or he says, now I expect you to take very good care of this equipment, 007, where Roger says, Q, have I ever let you down before? And he slams the door, says frequently, and Roger drives away. And the ache, the look, Roger peels out with the car, and Q just the look of longing is so sincere and sad. Like he just moans and is just so sad. And I think it's a combination of things. He knows he's never going to see that car again, but the other thing is he wants to be Bond, right? Because who wouldn't want to be Bond? And Q has to constantly give him the tools to do the job, but in the back of his head, it's he wishes just for a day, right? Everybody would like to be James Bond, just to experience it.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in Q's face every time I see that scene. It's that's the one time you really see where you could tell there's some envy there.
And I like how they made a reference to the novels, or kind of a reference back to the first Bond movie when she calls him Major Boothroyd, which is what the character's name was that gave him the gun in the first movie, and in Doctor No, the guy who gave him the gun was Boothroyd.
Right.
Novel, yeah. So that kind of ties him to that character in the novel that we gave him his PPK.
Nice.
Yeah, and then
and we also we should mention we get reference to M's name being Miles.
Miles, which is from his name in the
by
novels.
by what's his name? The
Walter
Russian.
Gittel,
Walter Gittel references or says Miles before. So that is his name in the novels as well. Okay.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, a lot of little references in this movie. Good stuff. And then so then we get to meet up. They get this nice little hotel, this little resort hotel. I guess that's in Sardinia, or it's supposed to be in Sardinia, right?
Yeah.
Really cool, with a really hot receptionist.
Yeah, as receptionists go, she's not bad.
Yeah. And that girl, I don't know if you noticed, but she came back and Never Say Never Again. She was the girl in the Bahamas that he pounded.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that. It's been a long time since I've seen Never Say Never Again.
Yeah, we'll get to that soon. And we're going to do it at the same time as Octopussy, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. But
I got to find a copy of that. I don't think I have that movie.
Okay, I'll find a copy for you.
Amazingly. Yeah.
Anyway, but so they get this nice little hotel room, and Moneypenny booked them 2 rooms.
Right.
Moneypenny being a little
no, two beds.
Yeah, 2 beds. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was 2 rooms. Okay, yeah, 2 beds.
I think it's 2 beds. Okay,
yeah. But
in a suite. Yeah.
I guess after what happens later, it's a good thing she did order 2.
Right. Yeah. No kidding.
But then they're granted audience with Stromberg, and they're going to go meet him on his ocean sub palace or whatever you call it, and who comes to pick him up?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Your favorite,
Yeah.
Caroline Monroe.
Yes.
Right? She was your favorite when we did the
Yes.
best of, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. As far as
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe as far as looks, I guess she can't really be my favorite because she doesn't really have that many parts. But as far as like looks, yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very
Yeah.
memorable
Yeah.
as a character. It's amazing how, I mean, she probably has like 5 minutes of screen time, if
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she definitely left an
Yeah.
impression.
So she shows up to pick up Roger and Barbara or Bond and Anya to go have a meeting with Stromberg. And you can tell the whole time Roger's just eyeballing her, and Anya's kind of like looking at Bond and kind of irritated with him.
Yeah, it is hilarious
And
that whole sequence.
he wants to buy her a drink. It doesn't
Right.
ever stop him. I like how like he kind of has like a girl now, like she's kind of his girlfriend, but it still doesn't stop him from trying to flirt with all the women. He's like, "Let me buy you a drink first."
And what's funny about it
Yeah,
is all it does, even though Triple X is
yeah,
this amazingly capable Russian
yeah,
agent, all it does is make her more jealous,
yeah.
and it just makes her want Bond more.
I know.
The same way that it
Yeah,
would with any other woman.
yeah,
That's what's hilarious about it.
yeah, yeah,
Doesn't matter that she's this super agent or anything, or even
yeah,
in competition with him.
yeah,
She just she
yeah.
just wants him more as a result of it.
Yeah, and then yep, and then as he watches her walk back to the boat, he's telling Anya, "Oh, such a handsome craft, or what a handsome craft, such lovely lines."
Yeah, that really
Yeah,
pisses off Triple
yep,
X.
and then we go to this little sequence where they travel by boat, and it plays that weird music. I kind of like it. It's kind of a cool tune, but very 70s. Kind of a
Hmm.
weird song, that Atlantis theme where they're taking the boat with two beautiful women on a boat going out to Atlantis. That's the name of Stromberg's like city or palace or whatever you call it.
I
Um,
think it's so funny that it's
yeah,
supposed to be a city, but we
yeah,
only ever see like 5 people on it.
yeah. We only see that main structure. You don't
It's
really
not
see.
very well populated.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. Just with a bunch of dudes in orange,
Right?
yeah, orange jumpsuits. But we get that scene, and we see Stromberg, isn't he? You see a reflection of him from his lounge on the window as the boat's coming forward. That looks pretty cool.
Right.
And then there's that cool, like you actually see the boat going around this huge structure. So they must have built like the legs of that thing, or I don't know if it's like a forced perspective, maybe like it's up, but it looks pretty cool. Like there's this huge thing above them, the boat. It looks very realistic. You just see like the angle from looking down at the boat, and you see those huge legs, or
Oh
the
yeah.
buttresses or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
No, the design of Atlantis is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
For sure. Like it's very cool. I
yeah,
just think it's funny that you see more people on the tanker than on
yeah,
Atlantis.
yeah. There's way more people on the tanker. Yeah, yeah. They have a tram on the tanker too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
they got
get
the
to that.
tram system.
Yeah, we'll get
It's
to that.
very you only live twice.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. But we get into this thing, and of course he leaves poor Anya there to talk with Naomi as he goes to have the meeting with Stromberg. And she says, Mr. Stromberg prefers not to shake hands. And I didn't realize this, but like we were talking about before, but he has the webbed hands like a fish or like a frog.
Hmm.
But he goes in there. Of course, the first thing he's undercover as Robert Sterling, the marine biologist, right? Just to
Right.
look at his facility and his fish and all that. So we
Because
get
of course,
yeah,
like the richest man in the world would have 5 minutes for any marine
yeah,
biologist
yep,
who just happened to be in the neighborhood, right?
yep, yeah. But this is the little villain on the little pleasant villain hero scene. I think it's pretty cool, and you get that cool Ken Adams set, his little aquarium lounge, and
Hmm.
he's explaining like kind of about him. Like that's where he says that line, "Why does man seek to conquer space when 7/10 of our world is yet to be explored? The world beneath the sea."
Yep.
And then he shows him his little,
all those exotic fish.
Yeah, all those exotic fish and sharks and sea turtles and everything. And then he shows him the little model of his city. And he says, "Oh, every man has his dream. No dream, Mr. Sterling. Soon a reality."
Very ominous.
Yeah, and I like Bond. He's such a know-it-all, especially Roger Moore's Bond. He shows him the lionfish or the angelfish. I don't know how to say the name of it, but he says, "Of course you recognize that. Being an expert in your field, you recognize that fish." And then you see like Bond like processing it in his mind, and he does it, and then he goes, "Yes." And then he says like the scientific name of it and tells about the fish. You can tell at first Stromberg's like crosses his arms like he's disgusted with him. But then he tells everything about it, about the scientific name and the poisonous spines on it and everything. And he says, "I see you know your subject, Mr. Sterling."
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious that a marine biologist would know that, though, given how unique of a fish it was. This thing has venom in its spines.
Yeah.
Like it's flip fins part of them, right? Like this is an extremely dangerous fish.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be an obvious one for a marine biologist to know.
Yeah, but it seemed pretty cool to us.
Yeah. But we get this little pleasant talk between them, but then he doesn't have more than 5 minutes, so he sees him out. And Naomi and Anya are chatting on, having a good getting along well out there. They're talking about the Laparis, his the biggest ship in his fleet, that giant tanker. They're looking at the model of it, and I hope you weren't a bother to Naomi, darling, or whatever. But then they're out of there, and right when they leave, he goes to his fish tank and he's throwing fish food in. You see him eating the fish food.
Yep.
But then you see Jaws come in, who's alive and well, and he says, "Are those the two on the train?" And Jaws nods. "Okay, let them get to shore and then kill them." And it's not just Jaws trying to kill them. It's like every person that lives in Atlantis is trying to kill them. And
all 5 of them.
Yeah, all 5. So they get back to shore. They get back on the Lotus, and they're driving around. And he's saying, "I want to take a look at that tanker. There's something weird about the design of the bow or whatever."
Because if one side of the underwater city don't get them,
the other side
will.
Yeah, but there's this motorcycle dude. You see the cool typical Bond scene where you see the car drive by and you just see the wheel of the motorcycle, and then the motorcycle takes off, kind of like with the skiers earlier on, like the people trailing Bond.
Right.
That cool. And then we have a cool, like 3 little chase scenes right in a row right here. Relentless movie. First, we get this motorcycle with a sidecar, and the sidecar is actually like a missile.
Right. This is like the Thunderball throwback. I feel like a little bit.
But they get stuck behind the rig that has like mattresses or pillows or something.
Yep.
But this part I wanted to talk about the music. I think this is Marvin Hamlet's channeling George Martin. You notice this part here, like when the motorcycle starts chasing him, it does that dun 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 dun. It sounds like "Live and Let Die."
Oh yeah. It does.
Yeah.
You're right. It's very "Live and Let Die" for this little sequence here. I did notice that watching it.
And that song is not on the soundtrack, and I really like it. But I did see Cue the Music. I did notice Cue the Music did a cover of this song.
Nice.
It's funny, and they had Caroline Munro there. And, and I think it was the trumpeter was dressed up with feathers all over him. but they had a cool cover. They had a cool cover of this song. But there's a lot of little cues like that are not on the, unless there's like a revised soundtrack now. The one I have has very little on it. But anyway, we see the motorcycle guy shoots the sidecar missile. Of course, the Bond in the Lotus dodges it, and it hits the back of that truck, and it blows up, and there's feathers everywhere.
Get in the face of the motorcycle guy, like he's covered with these feathers, flies right off the cliff because he can't see anything.
It's like this mountain, this cliffside freeway, and he falls way that like hundreds of feet down to his death. All those feathers, and he still can't fly. But then it's not over yet. We get Jaws and a bunch of his goons in a little sedans chasing him.
Yeah, they thought they'd catch this Lotus with a Ford sedan, right?
Yeah,
like that.
I like how there's like 4 guys in there, and the poor guy behind Jaws is Jaws driving, or he's in the passenger seat?
He's in the passenger seat in the front with this big revolver shooting at Bond, and then he just grabs the gun from the guy behind him and keeps shooting.
Opens the door with a little machine gun, and then he just grabs it from him. Yeah. But then
so ridiculous.
Yeah, but then this is where the Lotus uses its little oil spray on the windshield, right? We saw it back in Q's lab.
Yep.
And then they go out of control, and I think they go off of a cliff, but this time they land on top of this poor guy's house. Mamma mia. And then it blows up. It looks like they'd all be dead, like the car blows up on the house, but then here comes Jaws walking out the front door.
He's got to brush himself off again.
Brush himself off, and he gives the guy a funny look.
It's hilarious.
But then we're not done yet. We get my girl Naomi comes in the helicopter with some really cool helicopter and driving stunts in this scene. This is so cool. I think this is Terminator 2 level, like helicopter stunts.
Oh yeah. I was going to mention the chase for this. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. There's a lot of low flying involved for this stunt.
Yeah.
That was probably very dangerous to do near the trees.
Yeah. Yeah, we get the car doing a lot of like 180s and the helicopter spinning around chasing him. I like that scene where the helicopter comes up next to the cliff and he looks over at her and smiles and she like winks at him.
Yeah. It's very Xenia kind of vibe there.
Yeah. But then he goes off of a pier. Can you swim? The Lotus goes off the pier and flies into the water. And this part gets more chases here. So the car, you think they're going to sink, but it transforms into a submarine. The wheels go back up, it grows fins. And all of a sudden the control panel changes to a submarine. It's like a submarine car now.
Do you know that scene in you've seen Love Actually, right? Oh, okay. Well, Rowan Atkinson is this guy who works at a store, and Alan Rickman is there to buy a necklace, and he's like, "Hey, I just need to buy this necklace really quick for my wife for Christmas while she's in this other section." And it's this whole like he's trying to get this done really quickly, right? And Rowan Atkinson is like trying to he offers him this box to pack it in, and he's like, well, I don't need a Christmas box. I just want to pay and go, right? But he's like, oh, this isn't a box, sir. It isn't. Oh, this is so much more than a box. And it's like he adds all this random crap to it, and it takes forever. And he's just like, can I please just pay? Like it's a hilarious scene. But I always think of that now when I see this scene in the movie, because this isn't a car. This is so much more than a car.
Yeah.
The submarine car is so cool.
It starts off shooting the missile up and blowing up my poor girl Naomi up there.
Oh yeah. Well, at least we don't have to watch her die.
Yeah,
but it is a little surprising Bond killed her, right? Because he didn't really have to.
Yeah.
That's one thing where I think it would have been hilarious actually if he didn't kill her, and Triple X is really mad about it the whole rest of the movie.
Or she blows up.
Yeah. It'd be really funny if she was just like, well, why did you kill these other people but you didn't kill her?
Yeah.
Like, how hilarious would that be?
Oh, that'd been funny. Yeah. But then we get all this wonderful underwater stuff, and I guess that was a real functioning submarine they built from a body of a Lotus. Did you know that? Like they had several submarines. They had a
Wow.
miniature. They had a
I
miniature of
didn't.
it for like wide shots, but then like the parts where that's like it's running into the divers. That's all like a functional submarine, or I don't know if there are probably not people in it, but I know they could control it. Or maybe
That's so
maybe
cool.
there are people in it, but I know that they built a functioning, or Ken Adams and Ken Adam and the bunch made a. There was probably several different ones for different angles, like one that transforms, one that moves, and then like miniatures.
Hmm.
But there, I know
And
there was.
they did this one the way that Guy Hamilton was originally going to
Yeah,
do the car in
yeah,
Goldfinger, like where they didn't tell you how it worked at all. You
yeah.
just
You found out as the yeah, as it took
yeah, as
place.
the movie went, and
Yeah,
that's why they worked so well
yeah,
too. Like you didn't have to have Q give the full rundown,
yeah,
but that is fun as well.
yeah,
It's just it was. I think it's neat that they tried it that way and it
yeah.
worked so well.
Hmm. Yeah, and then, yeah. So we get then we get the little slow romantic version of the Atlantis theme earlier on the boat, and
Hmm.
they're bobbing along on the bottom of the beautiful briny sea, um, looking at all the plants and animals and everything, and then they're scoping out Atlantis. They go all the way to Atlantis. And they look down in like the control room or like the briefing room, and they see something fishy's going on. Like there's a globe with submarines and stuff on it, so that they think something fishy's going on. And then right then they're attacked by frogmen and mini subs. So we get another little battle scene underwater. This is pretty cool.
You get that funky music
Yeah.
again.
Bow, 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 bow. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta love it.
Yeah, I love it. And they use all the gadgets like the bomb and the oil or the smoke screen and everything, and it shoots torpedoes. This part does get a little gory. I noticed like he'll ram into him and you see blood come out, and when he blows up the mini sub, there's like blood coming out of there, or when
Yep.
Anya actually blows it up. But I did like this. I like how they have this mini sub from Jaws: The Revenge is in here, and they use it again in License to Kill.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Very cool stuff to
yeah,
see again. It's like a little Thunderball sequence.
yeah, yeah. Really cool. And then we get more silliness. We see a beach scene, kind of another reference to Jaws. We kind of get scary music, and you see like the perspective of the car coming towards the beach.
Oh yeah.
And then the car drives up out of the water, bing, 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 and all the beach people are standing by looking like, what the heck is this? They're all standing around staring. But
And
Roger
we
drives
get the
by.
first of three
Yeah,
appearances of the drunk guy.
yeah, the reoccurring drunk. Yeah, that's the first
Yeah.
time we see him. Yeah,
He's looking at the what's happening and then he looks at his bottle because he
yeah,
can't believe what he's seeing.
yeah.
This car coming out of the water.
I I love it. He's always in Italy. If you notice, the next two
Oh
movies
yeah.
are in
That's
Italy.
right.
I wish he would come back for more of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's yeah, he was great.
yeah. And then yeah. Then Roger's holding a fish out the window. Yeah,
That made me think of Jack Lemmon at the end of Grumpy Old Men
yeah,
tossing the fish out the car.
yeah. That, yeah, great stuff. And then we kind of calm down, get back to their hotel room where they're probably going to get it on some more. But then something happens. I really like this scene, and this scene. I guess they're going to go plan to join up with the Navy and raid the facility. But something happens here, a plot point right here that's really important for the movie. They're in their hotel room getting along as good as ever until she sees his lighter, and she says,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's nice." He's, "Oh, I got it in Austria a few weeks ago in Pengarten." And she says, "When was?" Or no, she says he asks. He says he got an Austria, and she says, "When was this?" "Oh, about 3 weeks ago." And then she opens up her purse and pulls out a picture of a man. She says, "Do you know him?" He says, "No. Who is he?" "The man I loved." And then she says, "He was in Austria 3 weeks ago. Did you kill him?" And then, like, probably the most serious scene Roger Moore's done, and I can't really picture Sean or anyone else doing it this well. This dialogue Sean Roger Moore has right now, where he kind of turns his back to her and says, "When you're going down a mountain at 40 miles, or when you're being chased on skis 40 miles an hour with a man trying to put a bullet in your back, you don't always have time to remember faces." He says, "And in our business, people get killed. You and I both know that, and so did he. And the answer to the question is yes, I did kill him." I thought like that's like the best like serious like, as far as Bond movies go. I know he's serious and other stuff, but as far as Bond movies, like that was like the most serious acting from Roger. It was really good.
That's a good delivery for sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, Anya says, "Then, when this mission is over, I will kill you." So then the rest of the movie, they're at turmoil between them, and they don't get along. And I love the next scene where they're getting lowered down into the
It immediately cuts to them like embraced, getting lowered down on the helicopter cable into the sub, and she's just glaring at him, and he's he's got the biggest smile ever. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then I guess all of these subs are built by the crew. Like they couldn't use real subs in this. I guess the English and the Americans wouldn't let them use real subs. So they built all that stuff. Those are models. That's pretty cool. And then we get more comedy. We go down to Captain or Commander Carter's office, and he doesn't expect her to be a woman. She takes off her helmet, and she has this long, beautiful hair. And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting you to be a woman." And he says, "Oh, you can use the shower in my quarters if you want. You don't have to give me any special treatment because I'm a woman. I'm Major Amasava aboard this ship." He said, "Okay, I just thought it might be better if I did."
Yeah, all the same, I think it might be better if I did. Considering the men, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love Shane Rimmer in this. Like he's almost like we missed out on Felix Leiter a lot on the Roger Moore era. I kind of feel like this is like the closest thing we get, like an American buddy. Captain Carter here. But and then we get the other sailor walking in there to deliver him a message or something, and then he sees like side boob in the shower.
Right. And what's the matter? What's the matter, sailor? You never seen a major taking a shower before?
Oh, I love it.
Pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So
by the way, the Blu-ray cut of this, the 1080p cut of this turns this into a restricted movie.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
This is not like even the intro sequence too with everything. Like you can see way more than you could on those old VHS cuts.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, you know the girl that really takes up a lot of screen that's totally naked. You can see her really well on the Blu-ray. You remember that?
Which one?
In the opening sequence, like she's kind of kneeling down and waving the gun around.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's not even a silhouette. Like you can pretty much just see her naked.
You can just see it, because with the HD cut, it's like, I feel like they needed to update the ratings on this thing.
but on the commentary, Michael Wilson or Lewis Gilbert, one of them was saying that girl, that model there, the one that you could see really well, her name is Penelope Smallbone.
Really?
Yeah, and they go, "Oh, she has such a lovely name. We even used it later on in Octopussy."
Wow.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, but then everyone's aboard this American submarine. And they're en route, but then they get intercepted by the Laparis, which is Stromberg's big giant tanker, the thing that swallows up the nuclear submarines. So they get jammed up. I guess it has the power to jam their controls and stuff too, because they can just suck it in like a tracking beam or something, right?
Right. Yep.
So they have this huge. Epic sequence where bam 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 bam, and you know what? That tanker is actually a model. It's a 70.
Oh, wow!
It's a 70-foot long model they built, because I guess if you build a small model, it doesn't look right on the waves, like the proportions looks like a toy. So they built a 70-foot or 50 or 70-foot. They were saying 70 or 50, so I'll just say 50 foot long model, and all of it blowing up and sinking and floating around. It's all a model with a V8 engine.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Ken Adams and the crew, and then inside of it, the Pinewood set that Ken Adams made, probably just as good as darned You Only Live Twice.
Oh yeah, no, it totally is. I love this set.
Oh my God.
This is one of my favorite sets in all the movies. I think that the end sequence in the tanker battle was so well done.
Wow, yeah. This is so good. So they all get captured, and Bond is still protective of Anya, even though she wants to kill him. She pulls out her pistol and he says, "Which bullet's for me, the first or the last?" She says, I've never failed a mission, Commander, any mission. Says, "Well, in that case, one of us is bound to be gravely disappointed, because neither have I." But then right then the alarms go off, and all the Stromberg instructs them to leave the ships, the submarine. So all the Americans are now hostage, along with the Russians and the Americans. Which is this is where it starts feeling a lot like You Only Live Twice. Like they take Anya away. They see it's a female, so of course all Bond villains are horny and they want the pretty girl.
Yeah, even like one of the richest men in the world, he has to kidnap this woman. No women were interested in him. He couldn't find any women that were interested in him. He's just one of the richest men in the world. No interest at all, apparently, by the women on the street.
He has to have some more eye candy now that Naomi's dead.
I kind of feel like that's all it was, though. Like I don't get the vibe that he was like sexually all that aggressive or anything.
No, he wasn't. Yeah. He just dressed her up. He liked to dress her up in the sexy dress. Now you are beautiful.
Tied up on the thing, like can't move. Right.
So then Bond makes this daring escape scene, which is very reminiscent of You Only Live Twice, and then he goes and I guess in You Only Live Twice, he saved the two astronauts. In this one, he gets a hold of a machine gun and he goes and he rescues all of the Americans and Russians who are held up in a cell. And this is where like Bond goes Rambo. I don't think he's ever gone Rambo up until this point. I know later on, like in Spectre, he was pretty Rambo, and in
oh no, he totally went Rambo at the end of OHMSS.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes, yeah. So this is the second time. Yeah, he was Rambo in that. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so
using the Sten gun, like he was basically
Rambo. He was taking out everyone, and even
he was the curling iron on the ice with the Sten gun.
Yeah, and the weird little scientist with the flask,
right?
Acid, he just blows that guy away. Yeah, you're right. I forget about that movie. So yeah, but man, he really goes Rambo in this one. I'm thinking, what do you call it? Tomorrow Never Dies. He goes pretty Rambo too.
Mm-hmm. But, the end battle on the boat.
Yeah, or maybe kind of in GoldenEye also. But man, this one, like he goes in there and he starts taking out all these guys with machine guns, all the guards, and then he rescues all of the British and American and Russians. And then they go to the armory. They start taking all these guys, and then there's this huge battle between orange jumpsuits and the Russians and the Americans and the Americans, the British and the Russian are all on one side against all the goons. There's this big, huge, epic battle scene in the inside of this huge tanker that's a Ken Adams set with all the monorails and everything, and all the forklifts and jeeps and everything everywhere, and all the grenades going off, and all kinds of gruesome deaths.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. And then I think everyone escapes to the control room and puts up or the captain of the Leparis, after Stromberg leaves, the captain goes and walls off the control room so the men can't get to it. But all the other goons are out there fighting with the soldiers or the military. But they've
got this amazing thick metal plating that protects the control room from the rest of the ship.
Yeah, so they're locked out of there and they don't know what to do. I love this line too. Like the one guy tries to throw a grenade at it and it just bounces off of the metal plate. It's kind of like a shutter, like shutters, like armored shutters.
Yep.
But then Bond says, "Oh, we're gonna go to the armory. What are you gonna find there? A nuclear missile. A nuclear missile? Hey, wait!" But he wants to get the detonator out of there, and this is a pretty cool suspenseful scene too, where he's pulling the detonator out of the nuclear missile, which is pretty cool. Like it could go off and blow up everyone, but he pulls.
And he's got the magic touch, though.
Yeah. He gets it out. It kind of similar. They kind of reuse that again in Octopussy when he's a clown. Like it's the same type of little detonator, or it's kind of similar. But this one, he can't touch the sides, otherwise it'll go off. So that makes it even more suspenseful. But he gets that off finally. So then he's gonna go take it to blow up the reinforced shutter doors to get to the control room. But the machine gunners are shooting at him because they can see him approach it. So he has the cool idea to ride on top of the camera, there's a camera on a track, like a surveillance camera, and he gets up on top of that. It looks like a little Christmas ornament, and he's riding on that. It starts playing Marvin Hamlich's rendition of the Bond theme. It sounds very similar to the Monty Norman one. It's really good. Ding 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 ding, and he's riding that thing to the reinforced shutters, and then he drops off the detonator there. The last minute he drops out of the way, it blows up, it kills everyone in the control room. And then all the soldiers
in like half a second, right? Once they blow that door, it's like Bond leads the charge and they kill everybody in there.
Kill everyone, even the captain.
In like half a second.
The captain says, "You're too late, Bond. The launch sequence has already been activated, and in 10 minutes, Moscow and New York will cease to exist," or whatever. So in there they have, I forgot to mention, he's setting up, he wants to destroy the world by having his two submarines bomb Moscow and New York, right?
Right.
So then that'll start World War III and blow everyone up.
Yep.
So they have this control room, a big fancy with a big globe showing what's happening, where it shows the positions of the submarines and their locations, and they're gonna, and they're both out in the ocean, and they're gonna shoot these missiles to New York and Moscow. But then Bond has the idea to reroute the missiles. Him and Captain Carter somehow get in there, and Mr. Know-It-All Bond, he just has to glance at the control manual for like 3 seconds, and then he knows how to do all that.
Yep.
So he reroutes the missiles, and the last minute, the captains of the respective submarines get different orders for new targets. So at the last minute, they get new targets to destroy each other. So they give each other the coordinates of the other submarine, and they blow each other up, which is kind of similar to one of the Bond novels. I don't want to give that away for you.
Sure.
But
I'll read it eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's in one. But that was a pretty cool climax to this scene, which almost seems like it could be the end of the movie right there. So both submarines blow up each other, and then the whole Liparis is falling apart and exploding. So all the soldiers get back on the submarine and leave as the tanker is sinking, and all that's done with model work. And then they destroy all of Ken Adams' wonderful sets and everything, all blowing up. They're sailing away on their model submarine, watching it all blow up. So such a cool epic.
It's one prop that never made it to eBay.
Yep. The whole thing. See, I wonder if that big 70-foot thing they just left down there, do you think they brought it up?
I don't know. I think that it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll surface on eBay eventually.
Yeah. But of course, the set back at Pinewood is all destroyed too. The inner set.
Yep.
All blown up, and then that could have been the ending of the movie right there, epic. But we still have the girl that needs to be rescued. Stromberg has the girl in Atlantis tied up with her sexy revealing dress tied to the chair,
Right.
and so Bond has to rescue her. But Captain Carter says he got orders from Washington to blow up Atlantis. And then he
Mm-hmm.
says, Bond says, give me an hour to get Anya off. He says, I can't give you more than a half hour. I can't give you an hour. He says, oh, damn it, man, I need to get her off. And then he says, okay, I'll give you a half hour top. So that's coming from the top or whatever. So then
No, he ends up giving him the hour.
oh, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, an
Because
hour.
Bond asks for 40 minutes,
Yeah,
and he's
that's
like,
what it
"All
was.
right,
Yeah, that
you're
was,
gonna get me court-martialed an
yeah,
hour."
yeah. Yeah, that was cool. And then he has a package from Q, of course, that little
Mhm.
that little C motorcycle thing.
Right, which turns out to be a DIY self-assembly jet ski.
Yeah. So kind of similar to Little Nelly, where they put it. They all came in a couple suitcases. This thing came like in a couple of cases. They put it together. This little jet ski looking like motorcycle that rides on the water.
Kind of
Uh,
unfortunate we didn't get to see it do anything
I know.
cool though.
Yeah. We get to see him ride around on it. It looked like it was really Roger riding it too.
It did.
Yeah. But anyway, he goes back to he races. It's playing the Bond theme again. Din, 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 and he's riding the Wave Runner to Atlantis, and then he pulls up in the dock. And it's Stromberg. I've been expecting you, Mr. Bond, as usual. And then he says, "Stay where you are. I'll send the elevator down for you." So Bond gets on the elevator, and he knows what's coming. Um, he puts his feet on. Okay, so goodbye, Mr. Bond. He hits the button to eject him, which he did to his poor assistant to send him down to the
Right.
shark. But when he opens up the door to the elevator, Bond's standing there. He's kind of straddling the hole, and his feet are on the side on the like the edges of the side. He said, "You did want me to drop in," and he gets off of the elevator.
And he's got the
Yeah,
gun
got the
on him.
gun. And this is a pretty cold-blooded killing right here. I guess Stromberg
Mm-hmm.
deserves it, though. I always hear people
Right.
complain about how dark this is, but that mofo deserves it. But Stromberg has another a trick up his sleeve. Underneath the table, he has this gun, like a rocket gun, that's going through this pipe, and he's going to shoot it at Roger at the other side of the table. And he says, "Your time's running out, Stromberg." And he says, "Yours too, Mr. Bond. Yours too. And much closer than you think, or whatever, and much sooner than you think." And then he pulls the trigger, and that rocket goes out. But Bond dives out of the way, and it blows up the chair. And I guess that was really Roger Moore that did the stunt. And I guess he got burned or something. Did you notice
Oh,
that?
really?
Like he had so much
Wow.
time to dive out.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about that on the commentary. I never really noticed or appreciated it that much, but you could see him there. Like he jumps out of the way of that explosion and like does a roll, and it blows
Mm-hmm.
up. I guess that was really him. But then,
Wow.
but then, you shot your bolt, Stromberg. And now it's my turn. And then he puts his PPK down the barrel or the pipe that he shot that rocket out of. And then he like starts shooting him in the crotch on the other side. Stromberg's sitting there eating food again. And then Bond just gets up and he just starts shooting him in the chest. He shoots him maybe 5 times very cold-bloodedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 5 times.
yeah. Yeah, he has a pretty
Uh,
cool death scene.
right? Yeah. Kurt Jurgens really
Yeah,
hammed it up for that death
yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah. So that was a pretty.
But it was good though. You know,
Yeah,
I like that sequence. I think you said some people don't like how cold-blooded it is or
yeah,
whatever. This dude was about to destroy the entire
yeah,
like civilized world, guys. Like
yeah,
he had it coming.
yeah. No
Like
kidding. But
this guy
then,
was crazy.
yeah, and then before he rescues Anya, he runs into like the big climax of this movie. He runs in. He has another battle with Jaws on that cool Ken Adams set. What do
Hmm.
you think about this scene?
Oh, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it because Bond finally gets smart, right?
yeah.
And after yet another fist fight with Jaws, he makes his way over to the control booth
Yeah,
that has a giant magnet on a crane
yeah,
attached to it, and he starts to lower it down to follow Jaws down to his level slowly. and he smiles at Jaws to get him to pause, and then looks up.
Yeah.
And Jaws looks up, and his teeth get attached to the magnet immediately.
Yeah.
He can't move.
Yeah,
It's a super powerful magnet.
Yeah.
And so Bond lifts him up by his teeth on this magnet over the pool of water filled with sharks and drops him in.
Yeah.
It's just like those machines at the arcade, right? The claw machines.
Yeah, the claw machine,
That's basically what he does to Jaws.
Yeah, kind of cool stunt double too. He was hanging by his teeth, like he must have been biting something. The guy, you could see the stunt double was like hanging just from his teeth, or like his arms were flailing around.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And then we get
very
Jaws.
Cool.
Yeah, then we get Jaws versus Jaws. You think, okay, Jaws is finally gonna get it now. There's a shark down there, but then no, like Jaws sticks it to Jaws.
Yeah. Jaws fights off these sharks, kills them.
Yeah.
It's like no problem at all. He bites the sharks and survives.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
noticed a little excuse me, nerdy douchebag remark I have for this. Sharks don't float.
Yeah, you're right. They don't.
Swim bladders. Excuse me, but sharks do not have swim bladders. They don't. They sink when they. Yeah, but I just like the idea of that. You think that's the end of Jaws, and he just chomps on it and kills it and swims away.
Yep. All of these horrible things happen to him one after the other in these movies. And it's like, it's just no big deal.
Yeah.
Bizarro Bond just blasts right through it. Keeps going, brushes off his suit. Yeah. So after that, of course, Bond rushes to save Anya because the captain is about to launch these torpedoes to blow up Atlantis. He gets to her and she's like, "Oh, Stromberg dead, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he says?"
Yeah. So are we, unless we.
And we are too. So are we, unless we get out of here fast, right?
Yep.
So he gets her loose, and then the torpedoes go live and start blowing up the place. Water is going everywhere. The set's tilting all over the place, or the camera does anyway, for them to make it look like this thing's falling into the ocean. And praise the Lord, hallelujah, Barbara Bach gets soaking wet. And Bond is trying to get into one of the escape capsules, of course, and finally makes it into this room, and they both get thrust into it by this wave. Turns out to be this basically submarine bed with champagne and everything else, because all my movies end this way, baby. And so they're in there, and the thing launches out of Atlantis as it's already sunk well below the surface because of the missiles, and his little submarine surfaces at the top with a little antenna beeping. And then we get the scene with Anya at the end of the mission.
I like and then he pulls out some champagne. Oh, maybe I misjudged Stromberg. Maybe anyone who drinks Dom Perignon 52 can't be all that bad.
Yep. And then she pulls the gun on him and says, "The mission is over, Commander."
And then you hear a pop, and it's the cork popping off.
Right. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe she's secretly been an alcoholic this whole time. She just smiles and, he says, "Major, in my country, the condemned man is usually granted a last request." Granted. Yeah. Let's get out of these wet things.
Yeah.
And then you get the Roger Moore eyebrow right going up. It's so 70s. It's like
and then you
because it's the implication of the eyebrow, right? It's so on the nose.
And then we get you see the carriers approaching. I think it's the same one from earlier with the helicopters, right?
Yeah.
And you see everyone's on there. Minister of Defense, MQ, Gogo's on there. And that little escape pod rolls up to the dock, and Yeah, they and all of them lean down to look in there, and then they see the two of them in bed going at it, and she says, "James," and then they like try to cover up.
And M says,
007,
yeah,
007.
triple X.
The
Yeah.
Minister of Defense, Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
And then he shuts the curtain back down. I guess they start going at it again.
Yeah.
And that closes
And then you
the
get
movie.
that awesome ending, right,
Yeah.
with the sailors all singing.
Yeah, it's like
Nobody does it better.
yeah, it's like a showy sailor version of the song. Yeah, nobody does it better.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. A really wacky ending that they would have never done in a Connery film, but it just works, I guess, for Roger.
It does.
And then then we get the shortened, abridged version of Carly Simon's song for the end credits.
Yeah.
The incorrect sequence as well is set up for James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only, which is not actually true. The next film is Moonraker.
Yeah.
Of course, so we will do it in the right sequence, regardless of the film they thought they were going to do in 1977.
Yeah, I think that had to do with Star Wars, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, right? Star Wars was so big, and then they were like, okay, we got to do space because space is hot now.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's your favorite movie, right? It's one of your favorites anyway, right?
And I was sad right when we finished this movie until I realized we're going to my favorite movie next.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good trilogy here. I think either end of the Roger Moore films are pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, and Spy Who Loved Me is a good trilogy.
Yeah.
Or Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, and For Your Eyes Only is a good trilogy.
Yes.
So, yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. Moonraker's going to be fun. Jaws comes back. Yeah. We got to see him surface. We forgot to mention that right at the end.
We thought
Atlantis sinks, right? But you see Jaws make it to the surface.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
He went over so well. Like all the kids loved him so much they brought him back. I think they were planning on killing him even as early as the temple ruin scene or the temple structure. But I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was one of the producers or writers said, "No, this guy's too cool. You got to keep him alive." Or he was popular. I don't know. But yeah, he turned into be a popular character.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best henchmen in the series for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy never talks. Like, how amazing is his screen presence, right? He has like one line in Moonraker, and that's it. You know, like everything else is just physical screen presence for his acting, and it's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. So that concludes The Spy Who Loved Me. Unfortunately, I didn't want to see it come to an end, but this is a good movie to kick off the 2025. It's a good start with this movie. Probably my favorite movie as a kid. For many years, this was my favorite Bond movie by far. I think maybe as I got older, there were certain aspects of Moonraker. I kind of changed it to Moonraker. But man, I don't know. After watching this twice, maybe it is my favorite. We might have to go back and reevaluate.
Well, that's the plan anyway, right? We had said we'd redo a best of series after we watched all the movies, see how our numbers changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how about you? What is your opinion changed, or what do you think of it now after we talked about it in our most recent viewing?
Honestly, like watching it, I felt like that it was not a lot of surprises for me. I've seen this one so much.
Yeah.
I could have easily done this review without watching it again, because I know it pretty well. But I don't think that my opinions really changed. It was always a high ranking one for me. It's one of my favorite Roger Moores. You know, it's probably my favorite Roger Moore. Really, between it and Live and Let Die, they're both the films are so different, but they're both like my favorites with Roger Moore.
Yeah.
So, it would just be depending on the day we were talking about it, kind of right for that. So, yeah, it's also just a really entertaining, fun movie. As well, like it's got some pretty brutal sections in it where he kills some people you know, in kind of a heartless sort of way, but I don't know, there's something, it just works well, balanced with his humor and everything else. I do think he's a much more well balanced character than a lot of the other Bonds.
Yeah.
Right? Because his puns are so good, and you really feel like this is just Roger Moore in a way. Like you don't really feel like he has to act much. This is just his life. That's what it feels like. You know, because he just delivers everything so well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can definitely see why he got to be Bond for as long as he did.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's my favorite Bond, probably mostly because of this movie and Live and Let Die. But man, yeah, I just can't get enough of Roger Moore. I wanted to be Roger Moore when I was a teenager.
Right. I mean, I think in many ways he kind of had the best. He kind of had the best time.
Yeah.
Probably of anybody who got to do the character. Like his movies are just fun.
Yeah.
You know, like they're yeah. I mean, he deals with some big villains like in this one, but it just seems like it would just be so much fun to make his movies.
Yeah.
Of all of them, you know.
They are. Yeah. This era, I just love it so much. As much as I love the Connery, like the earlier Connery movies, and you know how much I love Diamonds Are Forever. Something about this era from like the early 70s to like the late 80s. I don't know if it's just like movies in general I really like then, or it's just Roger Moore or John Glenn. I forgot to mention John Glenn's editing and second unit directing in this. But I really love his movies. Like he's the Bond director of the 80s. He directed 5 Bond movies in the 80s. And he did all kinds of work on this and editing. Like something about this style of movie, like the pacing and all the spectacle of it. I just love this era with Roger Moore.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's just, I think you really got to be a Bond fan to appreciate it too, because it is, so much of it is really wacky. And it's much more lighthearted than the Connery films overall, other than Diamonds. Yeah. And you know, and so, but not everybody's into that. They may not appreciate it, but boy, if you like that, it doesn't. If you like the wacky, campy humor parts of Bond, like Roger Moore is peak for sure.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah. Yeah, so I guess we'll close it up right now. We had a wonderful time at least I had a wonderful time talking about it. Did you have fun going through?
Oh yeah. No, this was great, right? We knew this was going to be a great one. This is why we put it off a little bit for the holidays. We really wanted to give it the time it deserved. This is peak Roger Moore, peak 70s Bond. And you know, so many great things about this film. The cast was amazing. The sets, again, the locales chosen for the story, beautiful, and cinematography, the music. You know, so many things I think just peak in this movie for the franchise.
Yep, and I can't wait to dig through these audio files. Shout out to Santa Wubs for sending me this nice computer I can finally edit it well. He sent me all kinds of Bond video footage that I can edit. This is going to be so much fun editing this episode. It's going to be so smooth like butter, not like my old computer. Shout out to Wubs. And did you have anything else you're working on? Anything you want to plug before we close up?
Well, we did record right before the end of the year. You and I recorded your top 5 Bond video games. So I'll be working on that progressively in the coming weeks. I'm not sure exactly when that'll drop. It may be out already. You know, you guys can, if it's out, we'll drop a link on this video and you guys can check it out. But yeah, it's Tylord's top 5 Bond video games, and it is a awesome list for any fans of the series or video games video games. Definitely check it out. He's got a great list that he did. Not what you would expect, by the way. Just like his best of series, right? Tylord always keeps us guessing, keeps it fun and interesting. It's definitely worth a watch.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait to.
You'll not be disappointed.
I hope I don't disappoint myself.
No. Not at all. It was great. I loved making that. That was so fun.
All right.
To record that. So I'm looking forward to doing the editing on that one. I think you and we talked about doing a top 5 Bond girls video at some point, which I think will be really fun. We haven't recorded that yet. We kind of want to do that with Omega though.
Yeah, we got to do that
because we did the top 5 Bond songs, and that was a really popular video.
Yeah, I love that. Was probably the best video in the whole series we've done.
Yeah, we want to give the people a follow up to that, since they seem to like it so much. Yeah. And God, aside from music, I think the women might be the only thing more exciting. Yeah. In the movies. So.
Yep, and that's going to be even tougher to choose than the music in the movies.
Right. And we gotta figure out what the criteria are too. Yep. So how to do this. So this I feel like I'm Sean Connery and From Russia with Love. You decide the matter. This could take some time.
Right. Yep. Yep. And if anyone else has any ideas or top 5 ideas, or you want to come on the show and and talk about your top 5, let us know. Just put in the comments.
Come talk about your favorite Bond, anything like that. We could always do a special guest episode for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, I can't get enough of this.
Yep.
Yep. But
Yep.
So anything else, Wub? You got anything else to say?
You expect me to talk more?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die!
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die!